call.
Palermo.
Here.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding.
Here.
Johnson. Melton.
Here.
Mr. President.
Here. Please stand for the pledge and remarks by Councilmember Harding.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks. You can be seated, please. So the seven of us are kind of like a family, and one minute we could be laughing together, and the next minute we might be disagreeing about something, but like a family, we're also a team, and we know that we must work together for a common goal, and that is to make Omaha a better place for all. One more thing about a family. Sometimes we have relatives that experience some health issues, and when those occur, we pray that they find the cause and that they're able to enjoy a full recovery. Thank you.
An affidavit of publication is on file for the pre-council and city council meeting, and a current copy of the Open Meeting Act is posted in a white binder on the east wall of legislative chambers.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Omaha City Council. We appreciate you being here and look forward to your testimony on our many items today. Please turn your cell phones off or turn them to vibrate. And our first item today is we have a presentation by Councilmember Bagley regarding the Irish ambassador who will soon be visiting Omaha. Mr. Bagley.
Thanks, Mr. President. I have a proclamation to read today. Whereas Irish ambassador to the United States, Daniel Mulhall, will make his first visit to Nebraska from February 26th through March 1st, 2022, and along with his wife, Greta, will be honored guests at the Nebraska Statehood Dinner celebrating Nebraska's admission to the Union on March 1st, 1867. And whereas Irish American Heritage Month celebrates Irish American communities throughout the nation and recognizes the conspicuous contributions of Irish immigrants in helping to establish the city of Omaha, culminating with the St. Patrick's Day Parade on March 17th. And whereas the City Council of the City of Omaha recognizes the official designation of March as Irish American Heritage Month by the President of the United States. And whereas 2022 marks the 20th anniversary of the creation of Omaha's fourth sister city, Naas, in County Kildare, Ireland, and the 150th anniversary of the Omaha St. Patrick's Day Parade, and will be commemorated with a visit by Naas Mayor Emeritus Timmy Conway. And now therefore be it resolved that the City of Omaha officially welcomes Ambassador and Mrs. Mulhall and designates March 1st, 2022 as Daniel and Greta Mulhall Day. In witness whereof, we have set our hands and caused the official seal of the City of Omaha to be affixed on this 15th day of February 2022. A couple remarks I'd like to make in honor of this. As the son of an Irish father and Irish mother, it's pretty exciting that as the elected representative and the honored city councilman to be sitting here giving this the comments on my family. We came from County Kerry. Did a little digging on this, and my father's my aunt married an Irishman from Sligo, and my Aunt Mary Ann married an Irishman from Limerick. So I had the fun to go visit in 2017 with my family to Ireland, and it really was amazing to see the country where my immigrants and many people from this community that built Omaha came from. I heard from several people in my district when they saw this proclamation on the pride they had, and the mayor, I'd like to thank her for, there's going to be an honor for Ambassador Mulhall and his wife here in a couple weeks with the city. But as Irish immigrants, they helped build Omaha, and the stories and the contributions they made, including the son of a teacher and mailman that became a union leader and city council member that has a great honor on behalf of the Irish and all the immigrants that built Omaha to honor Ambassador Mulhall when he comes here in a couple weeks. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Item 6, a resolution to approve the preliminary plat for Capriana located west of 210th and Emmett Streets. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. B's communication opposition.
Public hearing and vote on number 6 is today. Proponents, please.
Hi, excuse me, Reagan Pence with Lamprey Nearson representing my client, 14710 West Dodge Road. Proponent of the project, approximately a 15-acre site located in Elkhorn, about 2/3 of a mile from the Elkhorn downtown district, closer to the Maple and Pacific entrance. We are looking to create a combination of multifamily and single-family project. We are proposing to rezone from agriculture to R6 PUD to the south and R5 to the north, with a partnership with Habitat for Humanity for the lots to the north. A little bit more about the site. Currently, we are in compliance. Sure.
Yeah, I think, there you go. It might help to push it all the way up to the arm there. Okay, that's good.
Currently in compliance with the Omaha master plan. We have R5 to the north. We are designing the R6 PUD designed to the R5 more restrictive zoning standards for the multifamily. The multifamily with the spectrum of multifamily, this is a lower density multifamily. It's a 2-story product. We do have a series of outlots. It is a very challenging site with grading. This parks at approximately 2 to 1, and we have a garage per unit, whether it's built into the building or detached. With regards to setbacks, by code, the side yards are supposed to be 10 feet. We actually have 25 to the south, and then we have 60 for a rear yard setback to the north, so considerably larger than what is required by code. With regards to the buffer yards, there is a 20-foot buffer yard requirement to the south and the east. Again, we are providing a 25-foot setback or a buffer yard to the south and then a 60-foot to the east. So again, more than code is required. Drainage, we are capturing all of the site drainage. We have provided a PCSMP, a drainage study, and a grading plan for review with the city. We have provided a a draft traffic study that shows the impact of this project to the Elkhorn Drive and surrounding streets. Currently, there's minimal impact. It still operates at a B level, which is considered also very good. We are providing a connection, public right-of-way connection from the existing stub at Emmett Street to Elkhorn Drive. And then we are extending the stub at Cleveland Street to the south. And then we are also providing a stub to the north. So with that, I'd like to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any other proponents on number 6 today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. Motion and a second. Roll call.
Palermo. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Mr. President.
Yes.
Item 6 is approved, 7-0.
Thanks.
Items 7 through 10 can be considered together for Westbury Farm, replat 2, located southeast of 218th and Karen Streets. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. Items 7 and 8, ordinances to rezone this property from R4 District to DR District and R4 District. Item 9, a resolution to approve the final plat. Item 10, a resolution to approve the subdivision agreement.
Public hearing and vote on items 7 through 10 are today. Proponents, please.
Mr. President, members of the council, John Bachman, 10250 Regency Circle. I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. Roll call.
Palermo. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 11, a resolution to approve the amendment to the Downtown Northeast redevelopment plan for a 9-acre project site generally known as 1804 Capitol Avenue, which will consist of housing, retail, office space, and parking. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing and vote on number 11 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Councilmember Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a few questions, just for the record, just so that people on the Zoom call as well as in District 2 are kind of informed about what's going on in the community. And so I'd like for the City Planning Department to come up and answer this question and provide information about the components of a comprehensive redevelopment plan, because that's what we're talking about in this agenda item today.
Sure. Dave Fanslaw, City Planning. I didn't hear a question, but I'll tell you why we're here, okay? So yeah, it's an amendment to an existing redevelopment plan, the Northeast Downtown Redevelopment Plan that was approved a few decades ago. That plan has been amended from time to time as projects come along. This is just another project within that boundary, and is the reason why we're here today to amend that. At pre-council, you had asked what we do as far as redevelopment plans. So we start out by identifying, obviously, the area and any general direction that we want a certain area to go, with some goals in mind. We do a inventory of existing conditions, so building conditions, infrastructure conditions, roadway conditions, zoning, land use, kind of get all the information about the area that we want to be a part of a redevelopment plan. And then we set out a development plan. What is basically the goal of that redevelopment plan? We usually follow it up with some strategies and a whole bunch of information, again, related to those existing conditions.
Okay.
And it's a pattern that we follow time and time again.
Is there any way, I need to have that information available for my record so that I can review it. And so at this time, I would like to, because I didn't see that as a part of the attachment, any of that extra information, such as transportation. Perhaps you have something in mind in terms of a developer coming in over there at the once was Civic Auditorium. Is there a developer in mind that City Planning has in mind to do something over there? I'm not sure, because that
Sure,
information was lacking.
Well, we've been working, because it's not necessarily part of this plan.
Okay.
But yeah, we have a developer in mind to redevelop the Civic Auditorium site. This particular amendment to the Northeast Downtown redevelopment area was at Planning Board on January 5th, and we sent City Council staff the entire agenda and all the attachments for all of those Planning Board cases on December 30th. So they should have been given to all 7 of you.
And so did that also include things like on your redevelopment plan, it should provide information regarding public transportation, public utilities, recreational and community facilities, and other public improvements?
Again, this is, I don't want to interrupt. This is a amendment to that overall plan specifically for the Civic Auditorium site.
Okay. And so, no, that wasn't included in there?
It's included in the original plan.
But not when you have an amended plan such as this? I'm gonna look over my shoulder, and hopefully Jen Taylor can come help me out. She helped us author that plan.
Good afternoon, members of City Council. Jennifer Taylor, City Law Department. And to be clear, this is an amendment to the Downtown Northeast Plan. The Downtown Northeast Plan from 30 or 40 years ago was kind of an overall general concept as to how we wanted to redevelop properties within the area. Periodically, when we actually have an actual project that comes along, we'll amend that plan to specifically identify and describe that particular project. So in the amendment to the redevelopment plan that you have before you, there actually are sections that describe the existing conditions in the project area, including land use, occupancy, conditions, and zoning, whether or not there's any historic properties in the area, the present valuation of the property that's subject to the redevelopment plan, as well as a description of the project itself, street conditions, grades, utilities, also the project costs and the projected public financing associated with that. Those are all contained in the amendment that's actually included in your packet that's before you today. Happy to answer any questions on that. The last amendment we had specific to the civic site, just so that you're aware, was 3 or 4 years ago, we amended the Downtown Northeast redevelopment plan to describe a redevelopment project for the civic site that actually was the demolition of the civic auditorium. And that plan authorized the demolition of the structure and authorized the city to utilize redevelopment bonds to pay for the cost of that demolition. This particular amendment describes a proposed project that we're looking or entertaining to conduct or foster or participate in on the site, describes the project to the extent that there is a general description of the project, what we need to do, and approval of that plan will facilitate us moving forward to proceed with that project.
Thank you.
Any more
that-
questions?
No, thank you. Thank you as well. So I will go ahead and make a motion to accept the resolution.
Motion and a second to approve. Councilman Harding, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was just going to say, and I think Jen touched on it, but I think that the original Downtown Northeast redevelopment plan might have been 1997. So that's how old the original plan is. And it's been amended many times over the years, but just a bit of unneeded trivia.
New city council persons on board here, so it's very much needed.
Thank you. Councilman Palermo, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. And this question may be for the Planning Director, Mr. Fanslaw. As we heard earlier, the land use, occupancy, condition, and zoning category, obviously it says loud and clear in the second sentence, the project area includes the former Civic Auditorium site.
Sure.
I've been briefed on that site numerous times. It still sits empty. Is it too early to ask? Do we have a project intended to be used in that site?
We're working on that right now.
Nothing you can tell us about?
We've already.
If you're sworn to secrecy, I understand,
No,
but this is the time for communication.
We're not sworn to secrecy. It's in the
Okay.
plan. Yeah. Page 2. So you have it in front of you?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So on the top, second paragraph, redevelopment plan. You want me to read it to you? I'm serious. I'm asking.
What I would like and what everybody in Omaha would like when we have these parcels of land that sit empty and we have all these development changes.
Sure.
We would like to know what the developer is bringing to this site to benefit the city of Omaha.
I understand. It's in the plan.
Okay?
You want me to read what's in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead and read it to me.
Sure. All right.
For the
So
record, thank you.
what's that?
Thank you.
You
Yeah,
want me-
read it, please.
Yes, sure. So the redevelopment plan proposes 250 to 300 market unit rate apartments, 120 to 140 affordable apartments, retail, main level, multifamily, 20 to 25 townhomes for sale surrounding the site on either side, and parking.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
It's important that you read that.
That's perfectly fine.
Thank you.
Yep, you bet.
Thank you. No further lights. There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Palermo. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Mr. President.
Yes.
Item 11 is approved, 7-0.
Without objection, we'll move item number 13 up on the agenda next and then take item number 12 at the request of Councilmember Johnson and also the applicant. Madam Clerk.
Item 13, an ordinance to approve the Forever North Housing and Multi-Model Transportation strategy located in an area generally bound by Ames Avenue on the north, Cummings Street on the south, 20th Street on the east, and Highway 75 on the west. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. B is communication and support. C and D are amendments proposed by Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you. And I didn't interrupt the clerk there, but I will remind folks to turn your cell phones off. We won't ask again. We do have a number of folks on these two agenda items, number 13 first and then number 12. There'll be two separate public hearings on these items. I think we have a lot of folks here to speak to them. I just want to get a sense of who intends to speak today for our planning purposes. If you might raise your hand if you intend to speak on item 13 as a proponent. Thank you. And how about opponents? Okay, thank you. What we'll do is I don't intend to institute any kind of time limit or a 3-minute rule like we sometimes do, but I would encourage you to try to limit your remarks to 3 minutes so we can hear from everyone and then also get to questions from council members. So having said that, we'll start with number 13. Proponents, please. The public hearing and vote is today. We'll hear from the Planning Department.
Good afternoon. Kelly Johnston Dorsey with the Planning Department. Forever North is a strategic action-oriented approach to enhance the ongoing community development efforts and to provide guidance for future development along the North 24th Street corridor. The boundaries are Ames Avenue on the north, Cummings Street on the south, Highway 75 on the west, and 20th Street on the east. The community vision is the North 24th Street corridor developing into a vibrant, livable community that values existing residents, attracts new community members, and offers opportunities and experiences everyone can enjoy. This document is intended to be purposeful guidance that will attract new business, but also protect current businesses and residents. Community engagement for Forever North was largely conducted in 2019. Engagement efforts included focusing community group meetings, stakeholder meetings, mailers, a Facebook page, media coverage, open office hours, place assessments, e-bike rides and tours, a block party, a 2-day community design workshop, door-to-door canvassing, and online surveys. The plan was largely completed in 2019. However, announcements from Metro Transit regarding the Metro Next study put a pause on the plan adoption until that study was complete, as the potential enhanced transit on North 24th Street could shift recommendations regarding transportation and land use. Forever North includes recommendations on land use and development, pedestrian connections, bicycle connections, transit, vehicles and parking, art, history, culture, and services and programs for people. This plan benefited from community support during the Planning Board hearing, and the Planning Board unanimously recommended approval. I will keep my statements brief. Manny Cook was the city's neighborhood planner behind the Forever North effort, and he is here to testify as well.
Thank you. And was that my friend Preston Love with his phone that was still on? I just thought I'd bust you there, Preston, but you got it handled, right? All right, thank you. Mr. Cook.
All right, yep. Manuel Cook, 2514 North 24th Street. Here representing myself, but then also Spark, which is the organization I work with now. Like Kelly said, led the Forever North study. But I'll just dive into it, and I'll just start by saying Forever North means forever, the north side, and even that name came from the community through that engagement process. And the number one thing that was mentioned by community members is that we do not want to be displaced, gentrified, or however else you want to define the forced removal of existing residents from our communities. Kelly stole my thunder a little bit because she mentioned all the community engagement that we did, so I'm going to skip over that. But the strategies associated housing and transportation studies showed the immense demand for housing in the area, and this was even prior to COVID. So I know during COVID and the housing crisis that kind of came to the surface, that already existed. So anyway, a few notes from the study that I think are important are that there's nearly 100 acres of vacant land within a quarter mile of 24th Street, that area from Ames to Cumming, and demand for 90 to 195 new housing units per year through 2037, and this is coming straight from the document, so that's a total of 1,850 to 3,900 housing units within that area and in the surrounding area as well. Some of the organizations that have already referenced this strategy are are the state's missing middle workforce housing, the North Omaha Recovery Plan. It was referenced by the city to make sidewalk improvements around the 24th and Pratt area. Metro, I think Kelly mentioned this a little bit too, but they succeeded this strategy by starting to work on new transit along the corridor, or this also helped them select 24th Street or that area for that study and for improved transit going forward. Let's see, streetscape planning by local organizations like the BID also referenced this plan. I try and call it strategy because I know we have a plan coming up next to help. It's confusing sometimes, but anyway, so they referenced this strategy. And then there's been several facade improvement projects, including a project that my organization works on, which we call the Fabric Bays, which is just north of the Old Love Jazz, so 2514 through 2522 North 24th Street. So we've been working with partners to improve those facades and those buildings as a whole, activate those spaces. Also, Spencer's Barbershop is another project, the Carnation Ballroom, and there's a lot of other projects that are underway and will come after the proposed 24th and Lake development plan. North Omaha Trail Project, that's something that was referenced in this strategy, and that is a project that I'm working on right now and that we will be breaking ground on hopefully at the end of March, just depending on the weather. But if it's like it is today, we will have no problems. And then is also referenced by North and Teleservices' forthcoming 24th and Lake development. And those are somewhat larger projects, but the people in community organizations on 24th Street have also done their part to accomplish many of the quick wins and early action projects laid out in Forever North to start improving the area. And by my estimate, I would say at least about 15 of those quick wins or early action projects have been accomplished. So some of those things include working to create a cultural entrepreneur incubator. And if you haven't heard of Culture House, it's happened. And if you haven't heard of them, I would Google them or look them up on Facebook or Instagram or anything like that, or drive down 24th Street to 24th and work. North Omaha Trail Project, I mentioned that. Another thing that was outlined was coordinate community-led tours. So we have the North Omaha Legacy Tours, and I won't steal anyone's thunder on that. And then Just Ride, which is a community bike ride that I lead, which we've had 40 to 50 people from North Omaha riding on bikes through the community and into downtown on several occasions as well. Other things, creative programming of the Bryant Center. And friends of mine, Sundiata and Sherman Wells, have done a great job of continuing and doing that. You know what, I could go on, but like I said, there's at least 15 things that have been accomplished so far. And so basically, the community has already started to fulfill this strategy, and any opponents to this strategy would be opponents to how the communities living and working along North 24th Street want to see the area grow. They would be opponents to community engagement and opponents to equitable development in North Omaha, and any elected officials who would dare stand against this strategy would simply be abandoning their responsibilities to the community. So, in short, what does the community want to see? The community wants to see infrastructure improvements that improve their quality of life. The community wants to see 24th Street redeveloped like a main street, like a urban downtown area, and like a Black Wall Street. We want it to be like it used to be, if not better. The community wants well-designed, high-quality, affordable housing, and I think that's a duh. And then the community wants safe pedestrian-oriented streets that prioritize people who live and work in the community, because traffic speeds on 24th Street and the surrounding neighborhood streets is a problem, as well as the design of those streets. And again, the number one thing the community wants is protection from further displacement and gentrification. And in the plan, the number one priority under development is to protect residents from displacement. And I don't think there's any other city documents that I know of that have this type of language in them. This strategy is built on what the community wants and will help guide both development and infrastructure improvements, while also serving as a foundation for City Council to start developing formal anti-displacement policies, and I have some of those if you want them. I might give them to you later because they're in my bag over here. But the community and city departments have already done their job and then some, and now I think it's time for you to do your job and to take responsibility for equitable development on 24th Street. And I look forward to your unanimous vote on this strategy. And I also support the development of an implementation committee as laid out in the plan. So thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for your personal work on these plans.
Yep.
Next proponent, please.
DeJuan Lamont Hayes, 5835 Corby Street. I had the pleasure of working with Manny Cook on the steering committee for the Forever North study, and I personally have grown up in and along 24th Street most of my life, and after graduating, returned to Omaha to work with the Union for Contemporary Art, and ultimately to start Noise and lead the engagement. And one of the biggest gaps that we saw were there's a lot happening with the city making decisions about us, without us, and this has been a pattern for generations. Not for lack of any actual studies or formal attempts, because we've had many, many studies just starting in the 70s of what should happen, making sure that a lot of this engagement is meaningful and that the people feel that they are part of the development and that the development and what it looks like, especially the aesthetics of it, reflect what the community needs. And that everything that we're building in our built environment is actually bringing us together rather than driving us apart. And this type of plan that includes a level of engagement and communication and active strategy across generations, across experiences, is something that the city of Omaha really needs to take heed and as an example of how you actually engage community in decision making, because we have record of people saying, this is what I like and this is why, and this is what my experience has been thus far. And so I please ask that you vote in support of Forever North and the North 24th Street redevelopment plan, because this is an opportunity for us to really take our future into our own hands and really make sure we have an informed, thoughtful approach to redevelopment and revitalization of a community. So if you have any questions, but thank you so much.
Thank you. Next proponent, please.
My name is Preston Love, Prestonlove. It's a pleasure to be able to come to this city council and talk about good things in North Omaha. North Omaha is so rich in history and culture. Yet, I give tours and have given tours of North Omaha for years, and I often point at a building that has boarded up and has been boarded up since the 60s. It is part of our history that there has not been any serious or thoughtful development in North Omaha. We've had lots of development plans on paper and verbally and all of that. But those plans had commonalities, negative, quite frankly. They didn't involve the community. They did involve displacement of people without a plan or thought or with heart. So I stand as a proponent of this plan because it is unique. And now I can take a tour up and down the 24th Street corridor, and I can point to some of our wonderful assets and some of our wonderful culture and some of our wonderful history. But now I can point to 24th and Lake on the northeast corner and say, That's going to be a new development. And that's going to be a new development from people from our community. And I can walk back and forth down the corridor and look with joy and celebrate where we're going. And so I'd ask that you, City Council, would totally understand the bigger picture here, is that North Omaha has been held hostage too long. It's time. And this particular plan, I surely endorse because it's doing development, but it's doing it in the right way. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next proponent, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Carmen Tapio, 1500 North 24th Street, Suite 111. And it's really an honor to stand before you today and just to recognize the moment that we were at as a community. Thank you, Mr. President, and to all the council members. I stand in support of the Forever North plan as well as the 24th and Lake redevelopment plan. Our regional economy is robust and it is growing, and it is inspiring to see the continued momentum that we are experiencing. Much of it because of the work of the people in this room and you that are on the dais today. My company, North End Teleservices, is a for-profit enterprise, and it is one of the fastest growing businesses in our state as well as in our country, according to Inc. magazine. We understand the benefits of doing business and locating our business in North Omaha, where there is access to skilled talent pool that has an 80% high school and above educational attainment rate compared to the rest of our state, something that is not well known. And that 68110 zip code has double the professionals at 16.4% versus 8.8 statewide. Our company provides entry-level, middle-income, and high-wage jobs in the community. Our mission is creating jobs and changing lives. We grow and develop leaders and talent, and we do that while providing exceptional service to our customers that include commercial and government entities. About a third of our employees carry security clearances to do the federal contracting work that we do. Over 6 years ago, we started the company and we made a promise that as we continued to grow, our success would translate directly back into the hands of the community. And I tell you all of this because we believe North Omaha is our next economy and one of our greatest assets for economic development and contribution to not only to our community, but also our state. It is diverse, it is growing, and it is integral to Nebraska's overall success. We are making a $50 million development project investment in the heart of North Omaha, as Preston mentioned, at 24th and Lake Streets. That includes new corporate headquarters for our company, as well as affordable housing for rent and for ownership. We're anticipating 80 to 100 housing units, as well as mixed retail, food service, and daycare on premises, and community-facing spaces as well. The historic relevance of the location is not lost on us, nor is the opportunity that exists. We are using these plans as our guiding principles as we undertake this development. The plans serve to guide the development and make way for additional development, infrastructure, land availability, transportation, zoning, and permitting that we cannot fully accomplish without these plans being approved. Our belief is in the promise of North Omaha so strong, and it is so strong, that we named our real estate company Forever North Real Estate. And I just want to add that if we continue to listen to our young leaders who are often seen as the leaders of tomorrow, I actually believe are the leaders of today, we will go very far, very fast. And much of the work of these plans came from our current leaders, our current young leaders that will be speaking here today. There has been extensive stakeholder engagement and involvement, and it's time to move forward and, as they say, strike while the iron is hot. And we believe that the iron is really hot right now. The community is behind these plans, and it's time to move, and the ability and capacity to embark upon the development is happening right now in the community. The developments will be transformative and will serve as catalysts for additional much-needed development in the future. These plans reflect agreement that it is time, and not only is it time, but there's also a way and a pathway in ensuring that the community's priorities are not only listened to, but also maintained. This is about jobs, it is about homes, and it is about community building. Thank you for your consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
And thanks for your investment in North Omaha.
Happy to do it. Thank you.
Other proponents, please. Don't be shy. I know we have a lot here.
Good afternoon. My name is Dana Murray. I am the executive director of the Future North Omaha Music and Arts, 2510 North 24th Street. It's a beautiful day. I usually have a lot of symbolism in the words that I say. I will try to be brief today. I spent a lot of time and lived a lot of my adult life in New York City. I see the commonality between a lot of our underserved or our communities of color. Knowing that when you speak about it being a black and white thing, whatever the problem, that is easily put someone on the defense. I tend to speak about those things in a majority versus the minority. And the fact is, the minority usually draws the short end of the stick of progress. I'm gonna tell you guys a story. When I lived in Harlem, I used to look out my back window, and the apartment building in back, it was like a U shape, and people would throw the trash out the window down into the alley. After about 3-4 months, the trash would be about knee high. Then the city would come and clean it up. Then people would throw the trash out the window again, and they would come and clean it up. This happened time after time. You go up to Spanish Harlem was pretty clean. You had people out on their stoops, sweeping the stoop up. It seemed brighter, yet you were in the same basic community. I say to myself, God, why are they so uncivilized and savage? As I got older, wiser, I asked myself, what would make a people have that little respect and lack of sense of ownership that they would throw trash out of their window? Because see, I've been all over the world traveling as a musician, and what I've realized is people are way more the same than they are different, wherever you go. Our communities are in a depressed state. That is a fact. Why would they not be? Unless no one knows anything about our history. So why would they not be depressed? So we are either going to instill things that are going to right that ship, or we're going to just go along and hope that it just works itself out. I'm not a political person, I'm a musician, right? I've done more talking about what I want to do in the last year of my life than I've ever done. I'm a doer. I like to get in the trenches and get stuff done. But for the sake of this, I would just like to say that most of what I see is people asking for favors. Can you please do this for me? Can you please do that for me? I'm not asking for any favors, 0 favors. I'm asking you to do your jobs, right? I don't know how many of you saw the documentary on Tom Brady, but what was poignant to me was he said, I always hold my teammates accountable. I'm not asking you to overachieve, to try to go in a game, do anything special. We practice hard. Just do your job, right? No favors. I'd also like to say congratulations for being a part of this historic moment. This is special. It feels somehow different now, right? And you're welcome. What do you mean? You're welcome for all of these incredible blueprints that all these city leaders from North Omaha, there's so many bright, intelligent thinkers and doers that are presenting things that are going to be absolutely transformative to that community. And if North Omaha thrives, guess what? Omaha thrives. Thank you.
Thank you. Other proponents? Senator Chambers, welcome.
Members of the council, my name is Ernie Chambers. My address is 1825 Denny Street. I'm 1 block north of, 1 block east of this little development that they're talking about here today. But my community comprises all of the territory where Black people live. My blood is in that community. That community is in my blood. I will be 85 years old the 10th of July. 50 of those years have been squandered in elective office. 46 in the legislature, more than anybody else. 4 on the learning community, which my legislation and my efforts helped to create. I could stand here and give a list of what are called accomplishments and achievements that would cause people to say, I didn't know that, or that's not true. But if you have the kind of personality that I have, nothing that is done is of any value if the problems that were being addressed thereby continue to remain. Black people still have our vote diminished. Our political power that we should have as a result of people in office is not there. It's what they call de minimis. Our presence, but no power. I saw that as a young person because I did a lot of reading. I read white people's books. So I decided when I got into the legislature, I would learn the white people's rules and beat them at their own game, which without boasting and without being successfully challenged, I succeeded in doing to a remarkable degree. When I used to come before the city council, it was in an old building. This didn't even exist. I was in my late teens. There was a fellow named Jacob Berger who ruled the council and in effect the city with an iron hand. He was known as the speaker with a silver tongue. And as a youngster, I said on one occasion, it's nice to be a silver-tongued orator, but that orator needs to be careful that that silver tongue does not turn on him and cut his own throat. I even ran for that city council. The elections were at large, no chance to be elected, and I knew it. But it gave me an opportunity to talk and demonstrate that despite the ability that I had, I would never be elected as long as white people had to vote for me. So I got a bill through the legislature. It was vetoed 4 times. The 4th time, I overrode the governor's veto and required the election of the council by district. And without exception, I don't believe one of you who are on it now would be on this council if it were not by district. And white people resent what I say because I don't come with my head bowed, my feet shuffling, my thanking white people for everything, because substantially speaking, substantively speaking, nothing has changed for us from the time I was a small child at Lothrop School, which was almost all white, and they read a story called Little Black Sambo. I was the black child in the room. Prior to the reading of that story, if a child stumbled, dropped a book, and they laughed, the teacher would cease everything and say, "We don't laugh at each other." I'm not going to take all afternoon, perhaps. But I see the local constabulary has a representative to my right, and I can be escorted from the room, but I need not be escorted. Just tell me, leave. That's what I've been hearing all my life.
Well, I know you're used to the 3-minute rules in the legislature, so we'll try to wrap it up a little bit, if that's okay with you.
I couldn't understand you.
I know you're used to the time limits in the state legislature, so we'll try and keep to a shorter timeline if possible, so we would encourage you to wrap up the remarks as it pertains to item number 13.
You said the time limit?
There are no time limits specifically, but I'm encouraging you to stay within that time frame so we can hear from everyone today.
Okay. And I knew that would happen, but I knew nobody would throw me out of here. And I don't come here that often. And you'll hear things from me you won't hear from anybody else. But this I must tell you, and I had to lead up to it, because there are people saying, don't teach critical race theory because it will make little white children feel they have to apologize for being white. Well, my parents taught me to respect all teachers because they would teach me things that I would not learn. But they've made a mistake because they didn't warn me that these people I was taught to respect would humiliate me, ridicule me, when I couldn't fight back and didn't know how to fight back. That story of Little Black Sambo, for those who may not know, was a caricature of black people when they had the drawings. It was a child in garish clothing, a black face, a red big mouth, 2 eyes like saucers with dots on them, and when the picture was shown, the little white kids not only laughed, but they looked at me. The teacher I was waiting to hear say, as she said about the little white children, "We don't laugh at each other." That was not said. So from the time I was a child, I knew that a difference existed. And now to get to the matter at hand. By the time the speculators have gotten their foothold, those who don't live in our community have been given benefits, then there is the formalization of what has been done so that those who planted their seeds can now reap the benefits. Whatever happens in that small bit of North Omaha affects every place where black people live as far as I'm concerned. My arm is a small percentage of my body, but if it was cut off, it would affect the whole. I want black people who are going to shout Hosanna to pay close attention to the development in that area. Maple Street on the north, Clark Street or Franklin on the south, the highway on the west, and 20th or Florence Boulevard on the east. I've lived in that area all my life. A bicycle ride from where I was born. So I'm not going to stand up here and condemn you for what you're doing, but I'm not going to praise you either. When you see land being cleared and nobody in our community has the money or the wherewithal to clear it, when you see outsiders purchasing property that is beyond our power to purchase, that land is going to be held like a plantation, meaning that there will be those who don't live in that area who will control it, who will get the main benefit. But as with the story of Lazarus, then I'm going to stop. They will eat the crumbs that fell off the rich man's table. And some people think that the only dog in the Bible mentioned had a name, and the dog's name was Moreover. because the Bible says, moreover, as far as Lazarus there, moreover, the dogs licked his sores. I'm not a sore licker. I don't create sores. I do what I think ought to be done. And to the extent that I can be of assistance in achieving anything that will help my community or a substantial part of it, I will do it. Any person on this council, I don't care who you are, what your politics are, what your religion is, if you have a proposal that you want to see in North Omaha, any part of it, I will help you if it's of value. I will fight you if it's not. And I'm not going to degrade and demean those people who have done this little bit which will be done. But what is being done shows how much is needed and how little of it is being done. I have no disrespect for any of the people on this council because you're going to cast a vote today. My last point, there should be a member on whatever committee, council, or however it's designated from the district where any development of this size and magnitude is to occur. So with reference to this item, the person who represents the 2nd City Council district ought to be a member and not just a token. That person should be listened to and heeded, and I would advise that person to maintain contact with the community. And I want to let all the people on the council know you're not going to have to sit through these talks from me, because I will not be coming down here because I don't want to waste my time or yours.
Thank you. Next proponent, please. We need to refrain from applause, please, in the audience. Next proponent.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf and support of the Forever North and 24th Lake redevelopment plans. And I want to thank the City Planning Department for all their hard work and for all those individuals who already spoke about the support for this program. My name is Ralph Kleinsmith. I serve on the North 24th Street BID as Secretary on behalf of Lozier Corporation, where I have worked for over 25 years at, and many of those years and countless hours on 24th and Sailor at our West Omaha plant. It's kind of ironic how we call it West Omaha, but that gives you an idea how long we've been in North Omaha. That was our West plant operation, built across the street from our East plant operation. Our engineers were very creative.
And your address, just for the record?
I apologize. The exact address of West Plant is 4224 North 22nd Street. Lozier has been an avid supporter of the North Omaha community for more than 66 years. A brief history of the company's involvement in the community demonstrates our roots are deep in North Omaha. The company was established in 1956 with an office and manufacturing plant on North 21st Street. That was our East Plant operation. In 1970, with the support from the North Omaha community, Lozier expanded our manufacturing operations by adding over 200,000 square feet across the street, which is now our West Plant, North 22nd Street operation. Today, that position and that facility provides jobs, good paying jobs for over 200 employees from the community. The company again expanded in 1976 with the help of our North Omaha community. We added 3 facilities of very high-paying jobs, good-paying jobs, livable wage jobs on 6336 Pershing Drive. We put in facilities that equaled to over 1.2 million square feet and 1,000 employees. These jobs provide the community starting wages of $45,000 a year up to an average of, depending on what skill position it is, $65,000 to $85,000 a year. So these are very good-paying jobs that we can offer this community. And we need this community, because I can assure you, and I stand here today stating a fact, that Lozier could not have become the nation's leading manufacturer of retail display shelving without the support of the North Omaha community. Today, Lozier, like all businesses, but especially those in the North Omaha community, are faced with continued labor shortages and are challenged with hiring, recruiting, and retaining employees. For the past 60 years, we've watched a deterioration of the North Omaha community. The continued loss of affordable housing, reduced businesses, reduction of good-paying jobs have plagued this community. This needs to stop. The opportunity with the Forever North and North 24th, for Forever North and 24th and Lake redevelopment plans has the opportunity to change this narrative. These plans begin to address the lack of housing for seniors and the lack of new family homes for those that wish to move back into the community. These plans will help address safe, affordable housing for all families. The multimodal transportation system will also improve transportation for those individuals wishing to have transportation back and forth from the jobs that are brought into this community. These plans and funds would transform the northern part of our city. And we know investments like these, they work. We've seen it time and time again. We've seen it Blackstone, Midtown, Downtown, Benson, Exarban. These plans work. So I implore you to look at this plan to implement in the northern community, North Omaha. The investment back into our community is long overdue and would yield many benefits for the entire city of Omaha and the metropolitan area. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Next proponent, please.
Hi, my name is David Hawkins. I'm a part of the team at NOMA, 2510 Lake Street. Also speaking on behalf of myself, 2703 North 62nd Street. I'm a young professional musician here in Omaha, Nebraska, and music it's always been a huge part of my life. Began drumming on pots and pans when I was 2 years old. I remember playing in drill teams around North Omaha and playing at church. But it wasn't until I was probably 16 years old that I was afforded the opportunities and resources that I needed to develop as a musician. And that was outside of my community growing up off of 40th and Ames. I had to go to Burke High School, which happened by chance. I'm glad it happened, but it happened by chance. And it was there that I met people that shared the same passions as I did, that gave me resources, that gave me mentorship, that opened my horizons to a lot of different things. Not only in music, but also in life. It was a catalyst for, the kind of person that I wanted to be. And it wasn't until that time that I realized that I could be it, that I could be a professional musician, that drumming was even something that I could do for a living. I had never met anybody in my life that made a living playing drums, but I did that. And I saw so many other things in this endeavor that I could do. And I realized the passion, but I also realized a dream that I didn't know I had. Beyond that, I realized I could do it. But none of that happened where I lived. None of that was a perspective that I was able to see walking outside or hanging out with my friends or doing something down the street or even going to my community centers. It was sports, it was basketball, it was church, good things, but that was it. And even now, as a young professional, I'm in a position where I have to look at moving elsewhere and going to New York, going to Chicago to develop my fullest potential as a musician. And for a city with as much musical depth and history and roots as Omaha, that shouldn't be the case. That's something I wish that I would have had when I was 2 to 16, that I could have dove into more and spent more time enjoying what I enjoy every day now. And it's something that I'm still in search of now. It's something that I wish that, my friends that made other choices, that had some of the same inclinations that I did, but they never got to see those perspectives, so they chose to do other things. And every day I run into somebody that, we were beating on tables together, we were making up songs on the playground, but they're doing something that is never going to take them outside of where they are, or they're going down here, or I can't talk to them because they're dead or they're in jail. And that really could have been me. I was at a crossroads where my parents told me that's part of why I went to Burke. We won't say by chance. My parents took me out of the environment that I was in because they had to. Because they had to do that to show me and put me in a position to realize the stuff that I was supposed to be. That shouldn't have to happen. for me was music, so that's all that I can speak to. But there are things that are happening in North Omaha that will greatly benefit from these plans, and I'm a strong proponent of the 24th Lake Street Redevelopment Act, as well as Forever North. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Other proponents, please.
I promise I'll be brief. I tend to be long-winded, so definitely will be brief. My name is Mitch Strong. I'm the Neighborhood Revitalization Manager at Habitat for Humanity at 1701 North 24th. I'm originally from New York City, and I came out here to Lincoln for school a long, long time ago, 1992. And something happened to me there that that Ernie Chambers actually helped me out with, made regional news, national news, and I did not like Nebraska after that. But moving back to Nebraska and coming back to Omaha, you know, I'm so proud to be here, and I call Nebraska, Omaha, my home. I've done a lot over the past couple of years for people of Omaha, for people that are coming in from Omaha, refugees from around the world. And I want you to know, especially in North Omaha, that there's so much untapped talent there, untapped talent that will benefit not only North Omaha, but the whole city of Omaha, which a lot of people don't realize. However, if you have underdeveloped areas, it's not going to help anyone, especially the people that live in that area. You know, it doesn't matter where that is. If you have generational, underdeveloped areas in West Omaha, North Omaha, South Omaha, there's going to be problems. And when you have problems like that, you're not going to tap into that talent, you know, the people that come from those areas. So much talent. And I think right now is a perfect time to really see what Omaha can do on a national level, on a international level. And it takes just one little thing, and is developing areas that you can really help the people in. And those people will help themselves, and they will help Omaha. So again, I said I was going to be brief, and normally I'm not like that, but that's it.
Thank you. Other proponents, please. Mr. Maroney, welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Maroney. I'm the president of the Omaha Economic Development Corporation at 2221 North 24th Street. And I will also be brief. I'm a product of Omaha. Actually, I'm a product of North Omaha. Been there all my life. All my adult life, I've spent working in North Omaha. I've been aware of and involved in many of those plans that have come and gone. And I'd like to say that the biggest challenge has always been to those plans. There's never been the will or the resources to implement those plans. We have an opportunity here now if we pass this plan, and I don't think there's been a bad plan, but like I said, the will to see those plans through and the resources to make it happen just was not there. It was lacking. I think the Forever North study and the redevelopment plan that's with it is another step in the right direction, but it'll only be meaningful if we're intentional and actually provide the will and the resources to make it sure that it's implemented. And I'm in support of both the Forever North study and the redevelopment plan that's before you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next proponent, please. And to give me a sense, how many more proponents do we have that are going to speak? A couple more? Okay, good.
Luis Jimenez, 2709 Dewey Avenue. Are the plan available? I was trying to use my phone, but I couldn't access the Forever North plan. Anyway, I agree with the comments that was community engagement. one particular item was that they would do a double session or have multiple hours of availability with the city personnel so that people can attend and ask questions. So I thought that was good. I also want to support the amendment. I don't know if you guys are going to move for it, but there's two amendments, and I did read it, and I think that moving from here, if you're only going to listen to the business improvement district as it's listed here on the amendments, younger generations and emerging leaders, arts, history, and cultural stakeholders along North 24th Street, property owners and renters, technical staff from the city, MAPA, and Metro Transit, elected and appointed officials, representatives from community groups and organizations along North 24th Street, such as the Empowerment Network and North Omaha Neighborhood Alliance, NONA, and other community groups and organizations approved by the BID and members of the FNIC. I think that would populate the committee well, because I did attend the development of the plan a few years ago, and these are familiar faces. The point about having the community involved in the, I don't know, what's the next step, the execution. I think that's a very good point, and I think the amendment to create the committee and then have the council member even have the power to approve all appointees to the committee. I think that would be some good oversight. I support that. I look forward to further development in the area because it's needed. There's talk about vacant lots, and that's true. You don't have to go far in the area to see a vacant lot, and that's something that is going to take money to happen to get development there. So my last point would be about art. I saw the concepts on page 46 and 47, and I don't know if the new structures that would be proposed in those particular area represent like incorporating artistic components into the development. So I think that's going to be very important. Even the commercial developers and all the property owners of the buildings should focus on working with local artists to put up their art in their premises and property. And yeah, overall, I thought it was a good process. I hope that there are more people that get involved and that there was a lot of education happening during this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Other proponents, please. Mr. Barney, come on down. Then we have one proponent by Zoom after this, too.
Good afternoon, Council. Willie Barney. Play different roles, but first of all, with the Empowerment Network, 2401 Lake Street. And then my wife and I also own two businesses now at the Historic District, 24th and Lake Revive Center and the Carver Legacy Center. I just wanted to stand and first of all, always believe in giving honor where honor is due. As Senator Chambers was speaking, made me think about his legislation to have district elections at the city, county, state level, and the impact that that's made on the city to have representation. So we want to recognize that. We just heard a couple speakers ago from Michael Maroney. Working alongside Michael for the last 15 years, I've seen what he's put in and others have put into this work. And if you look at 24th Street, even though we know that there's more work that needs to be done, but if you start at 24th and Cumming and you look at the McDonald's and you look at CHI and you look at the learning community and you look at the Omaha Star Building and you look at Fairdeal Village and you look at where the Union is and you look at many of the things that have happened along 24th Street to create the catalyst movement for where we are now. A lot of that was really done with the hands of Michael Maroney, his team. And so I just really want to, first of all, honor his work and the legacy he continues to build along 24th Street. I also want to recognize a partner that's been along with us for the last 15 years, Vicki Quates-Ferris, the work and time that she's put in. We were a part of one of those plans 10 years ago, the North Omaha Village Plan. And I want to recognize Manny and his team the fact that they recognized that that plan, that they were building on it with the Forever North study. We had some conversations just in the last few days. I was down in Lincoln, and as Mr. Maroney said, one of the key critical components of this whole thing is once the plan is there, how is it implemented? How are the funds aligned? So I'm excited to see that this is really an acceleration moment. When we worked together 10 years ago to get the village plan to a point where it was approved unanimously by the city council, one of the goals was to be a catalyst and anticipating that the 800 plus people that helped build and develop that plan would be a catalyst to the next plan, but that plan would be the implementation phase. And so there's been a lot of work done in between the last 10 years. I don't think people realize that the union didn't exist at 24th and Lake, the Fairview Village didn't exist, the learning community didn't exist. So now with the work of Manny, Spark, OEDC, Carmen, the Carnation Ballroom, and many of those components that are moving into place, and to hear Logier, to hear the work that CHI is doing, now jobs are coming back into the community. This is really that moment that we've all been working towards. And I just want to again echo the comments from Mr. Maroney that this is the time also, once this plan, and we're hopeful that it will be approved unanimously. There's many things that are on the table right now, projects that are on the table that this plan will help accelerate, but we will also be back collectively seeking the level of investment from the city, county, and state to accelerate this progress, because now is the time, and I've said many times standing at this podium, and someone said it earlier today, that when North Omaha wins and South Omaha wins, this whole city wins. The other piece is there's an equity study that was done by MAPA, and it was reinforced by Equity, the policy link. It says that $4 billion, and this is going back 5 years ago, but $4 billion of economic activity will be added to this region when North and South Omaha reach equity with the rest of the city. If that was 5 years ago, I would imagine it's probably $6 billion that would be added to the economy when North and South Omaha receive the level of investment. So I just want to say thank you. I'm prayerful that it'll be a unanimous vote today on both plans, and we stand in support of an implementation team that will take this forward. So thank you so much for your time, and want to thank the Forever North implementation group that will be formed beyond this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for your work too. Other proponents in the audience? Seeing none, I want to go to the proponent on Zoom. Ms. Krieger, you're recognized. We'll get you off mute here in a second. Here we go. Try that.
Thank you, President Festerson. Jennifer Krieger, Greater Omaha Chamber, 808 Conagra Drive, Suite 400, 68102. I have a short letter from David Brown. Dear President Festerson and members of the council, the Greater Omaha Chamber is pleased to offer this letter in support of the City of Omaha's Forever North housing and multimodal transportation strategy. In 2017, we engaged our members to envision what it will take to ensure our region's economic strength into the future. The resultant Greater Omaha 2040 initiative focuses on people, place, and prosperity, and suggests a high-quality built environment is essential to attracting talent and supporting business growth. More recently, we partnered with Metro Transit, the Metropolitan Area Planning Agency, and cross-sector group of civic leaders called Metro Smart Cities to develop a new regional transportation strategy, Connect Go. The economic benefit of building walkable neighborhoods connected by diverse transportation options is a foundational element of that initiative. The City of Omaha's Forever North strategy is well positioned to catalyze inclusive economic growth in a part of our city that has experienced significant disinvestment over the past several decades. We look forward to seeing the results of its implementation. Regards, David G. Brown, President and CEO. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll now move to opponents. Any opponents that want to speak today?
Hello, my name is Gwen Easter. I live at 2895 Benny Street in Omaha, in North Omaha. I grew up in North Omaha. I decided to come down here and speak because I'm not going to say that I'm against this plan, but what I'm against is how all these plans have affected my life and other people's life. everyone wants to talk about the plan that they put together 10 years ago. Well, that plan hurt my business, my organization, my livelihood. I had 2 daycares. 2 daycares. I still have one housed in the same place. I had a little small t-shirt and little store that I turned my garage into a nice little store that I worked hard for. I started my organization and my daycare in 1999. And my organization in 1999 and my daycare in 2000. I was an AmeriCorps Vista volunteer before then, tutoring kids in Omaha Public Schools system. So I created a housing program, a tutoring program for kids. I had an adult GED ESL program. I've done over 15 Safe Night Youth rallies since starting my organization. I started out in a small little house in North Omaha, and I worked my way to purchase my property on 3rd and Benning. I had teachers, volunteers, staff. I tutored kids who was dyslexic. I tutored adults who were dyslexic. I had teachers doing the same thing, helping. A work experience program, helping parents. Worked with DHS and many organizations, Lutheran Family, Heartland Family Services, Lutheran. All of these different organizations sending their clients to my programs. When there was no one helping families and children in my community, in my area. And then here we go. Here comes people to come in my community. Start the learning community. And other programs duplicated my programs and services. Pushed out my daycare business and want to act like my organization and daycare is irrelevant. The financial hardship that I have gone through, I almost lost my home and my property because of people's development, because of people's plan. That is still today affecting my life. The disrespect that I have had to happen to me. Let's talk about also the over 200 private child care business owners who work just as hard as I did for my organization and my daycare and serve this community with all my heart. Everybody want to be proud about what they've done to accomplish certain things at the price of other people's suffering. There are people who lost their homes, their businesses, when all we tried to do was help people. I supported those that stood up here, a lot of them that stood up here and talked about all of what they've done. When I was that young entrepreneur, I went to Mr. Maroney's business program. They saw me work hard to get my business and my daycare going and my organization that I freely did. I'm going to speak on for the voices that don't have a voice, the low-income families who are being pushed out of our community. We can say gentrification, we don't want to be gentrified out of our community. I almost lost everything because of other people's plan for our community. People who don't even live there, didn't grow up there, don't know the struggle that we went through. The lack of disrespect that we have had all these years. Of course, we want things to be developed in our community. We want jobs and we want companies and we want all of those things that every other organization, every other district has in their community. But we don't want to be pushed out of our community. People duplicate my programs and then want to act like liars who want to sit up there and act like they just been working hard, paving the way, doing things when they know they lying. I supported a lot of people in this community, a lot of organizations. I got behind their plan, not even realizing they were coming to take my business away from me, lose my home. I forgave them people, I really did. I had to do a lot of soul searching and a lot of praying. And ask God to help me to forgive these people, because all I really tried to do was help people in my community. Because I understood what the problems was in my community, because I lived there, I grew up there. So I'm saying to you all, while y'all putting y'all plan together, what about the people who live there? What about the people that's being displaced? Affordable housing? Why is it that we can't define affordable housing? Because that property that's up on 30th Street that everybody's so proud of, it's not affordable for everybody. Somebody making $9 or $10 an hour or doesn't have a voucher from the Omaha Public Housing, they can't afford to live there. One of my programs that I made sure that I kept was my housing program that I've had for 23 years. And I get calls every day from people that call 211. A lot of families are struggling, can't pay their bills. Some of these people are living in their houses, living on their family couches or a friend, and at any moment and any day, they can be put out of their homes. But we want to talk about affordable housing. These apartments are not affordable. Where's in the plan that's going to guarantee that we're going to get to stay in our community? Where's the plan that's going to guarantee that those families that had to move out? And what about our daycare businesses that we're having to compete with free daycare down the street that they so proud of? A lot of these, it's not even teaching our children. Want to push sexual things upon our kids and all kind of stuff. I want to know, what plan do you all have to make sure that we as a community stay in our community? Because look, what I'm looking at, it's a lot of people moving in and a whole bunch of us moving out. I'm not against development, and I'm not even against the hard labor that these people have worked for. But you know what? Remember us too. Remember those that was forerunners who came before all of y'all, before you came over here and duplicated our programs and our services. Every time I turn around, we all getting downplayed every time. We got to prove ourselves. We got to prove ourselves to the legislature. We got to prove ourselves. We worked hard. I worked hard for everything that I have. And I'm still going through. I'm still dealing with things because of people's plans. You talk about y'all coming and talking to the community when most of you talking to your little partnerships. You're not thinking about the cost of everything. They didn't care. They didn't care that we was losing our businesses, downplaying other people's businesses. The child care industry, that's one business that we strived in. We black people was dominating in. And they had to come and try to take that away, to put up these centers. Who's sitting up here researching our children? Nobody's saying nothing. And don't talk to me about the white man, because black people helped push my business out. I worked hard for everything.
Ms. Easter, I'm going to have you make sure you're addressing us. And could you summarize your comments, please? We've had others to get to too, and Councilmember Light's on.
I'm done. All I want to say is this. Before y'all pass this plan, I would like y'all to think about those low-income families that need real affordable houses. I want y'all to think about the struggle and the work. I would like to get back to working with my families and my children like I was. But I got to go up here and come down here and do all this stuff. While I try to figure out how to get kids back in my business because of people's plan. So think about the low-income families and people who have a voice, because they have a voice too. They residents of this community too.
Thank you. Any other opponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Wow, what an exciting day. Such beautiful experiences that have been told historical significance to 24th Street has been echoed by many testimonies that have come up today at the mic to share their joy, their excitement about looking at these two strategies or two proposals that we're looking at, one being the 24th Street Development Plan, and the other one, the Forever North Strategic or Strategy. Just want to say, again, I thank everyone for coming today and sharing unity and working together collectively to look at where we're going to be going in the next 10 years. We all have concerns about displacement. We all have concerns about the African American history and culture being lost. Many of us are concerned that it will take 10 years for reliable public transportation to occur going north to south. But the overreaching strategy here is very exciting. A lot of thought was given to it. I would like to thank Manny for working on this in 2019 and present day. I would also like to thank city planning for being thoughtful and engaging in this. And yes, you guys have done improvements in terms of public outreach, particularly toward this strategy. We kind of got a little bit out of whack here today. We do have 2 amendments that should have been put before us before we went into the two, one says resolution, one says ordinance. Okay. Before we get into that, and that was an Amendment C, and that would be to allow your city representative to be a part of this steering committee, which is also called the Implementation Committee. Can you hear me? Oh, okay. So again, we kind of got out of alignment. The first thing we want to talk about is the Amendment A or Amendment C, which would allow me to be a part of the steering committee. I would also like to echo on the fact that this is kind of like out of order because a city representative really shouldn't have to ask to be a part of a committee. That should just be automatic. But for some reason, we decided to do this to provide unity. And not only the city saying, hey, it's time for a new day, time for North Omaha to have its day, for a significant change in North Omaha. We wanted to put these 2 amendments forth to you to unify the community and get the city of Omaha behind that support by saying, hey, we're going to have the representative there, and then the other section would be that representative would also pick who would be a part of that committee. The long history that we have in North Omaha, in District 2, we are unable to, just haphazardly implement these plans. Like Michael Maroney said, there has been a lot of development plans placed forth in North Omaha, and it is very important that the implementation of this plan is done intentionally. We would want that plan to be well thought out. We would want participation in the community to bring this forth. So My first motion would be on number C, would be to, again, signify unity in the community by assuring my participation into the implementation committee and being a member there. So I move that we do that.
I'll second the motion to approve 13C. Are your remarks complete for now?
Yes.
By seconding the motion, I'll just add that I'm also quite encouraged by all the testimony here today and all the partnerships that are represented here today. Councilmember Johnson and I participated on the State of North Omaha call about 3 weeks ago with over 400 people involved in that discussion, most of whom are here, or lots of whom are here. And I was also really encouraged by the opportunity and the moment and the enthusiasm and the unified voices on that call to do what we're talking about doing today, as well as supporting the many private projects represented by this Forever North transportation strategy and multimodal transportation strategy, but also the 24th and Lake redevelopment plan that we'll talk about here next. And the huge opportunity, as Mr. Barney recognized, in our support for legislation in Lincoln right now, as recently as yesterday, Bills 1024 and 1025 and also 1238, to bring what could be up to $450 million worth of funds to help implement many aspects of these strategies, a portion of which, as Mr. Maroney has acknowledged, has been missing in the past in previous studies to help actually get them done. And I think this is a huge opportunity for our community to have that happen. I want to recognize my fellow musicians in the room. Great to have you both here. I think it might be your first time testifying before the City Council. So it's great to have your participation in this plan, but also here today. And I think with Mr. Murray that said, if North Omaha prospers, all of Omaha prospers, and that's true. And if North Omaha doesn't prosper, Omaha doesn't prosper either. It's one and the same, and we need to do a better job of realizing that. And I think that's what we're talking about here today and can accomplish by taking some steps here today and with all the rest of these opportunities that are before us. So that's why I'm supporting item number 13 today, and I will support the amendment, item 13C, that ensures the council member from District 2 is involved in what's conceived of being the implementation committee. The document recognizes those that have worked on this effort for quite some time that are called the stakeholder committee, and contemplates that stakeholder committee becoming and transforming into an implementation committee that would then include the council member from this district, which I think is appropriate. With that, no further lights on the amendment. There's a motion to move, and Mr. Harding, is your light on? Or do you want to wait till after that?
Make sure it was clear what the amendment was.
Okay. The amendment 13C would add the council member from District 2 to what becomes the Forever North Implementation Committee within the document observed in number 13.
Okay. Thank you. Just for a note too, and I'll be supportive of that too, but I want to note that in the Forever North report that it did include elected officials, or it suggested that elected and appointed officials be on that committee as well too, or that, just for the record.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson, did you wish to be recognized?
No.
Okay. Motion and a second to approve 13C, the amendment. Roll call.
Palermo. Yes. Rowe. Yes. Bagley.
Aye.
Harding. Yes. Johnson. Melton. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
And Ms. Johnson, are you recognized? Is your light on? Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to go ahead and remove the amendment number D from this.
Okay. And so would you like to move 13 as amended?
Yes.
I'll second that. No further lights? Roll call.
Palermo. Yes. Rowe. Yes. Bagley.
Aye.
Harding. Yes. Johnson.
Yes.
Melton. Yes. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 12, a resolution to approve the 24th and Lake redevelopment plan located in an area generally bound by Maple Street on the north, Franklin and Clark Streets on the south, 20th Street on the east, and Highway 75 on the west. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing and vote on number 12 is today. Proponents, please. Planning Department, come on down.
Good afternoon, Kelly Johnston Dorsey, City Planning Department. So I think it's as obvious as we've heard in previous testimony that over the past few years, we've heard and become aware of a growing number of proposed and planned projects in the areas of 24th and Lake, and there's been a call for the city's assistance with some of these redevelopment projects. The Planning Department evaluated existing plans and determined that a new redevelopment plan was needed to address current and redevelopment needs, mainly the transfer of city-owned property. With a redevelopment plan, Nebraska statute grants the city authority to transfer properties at fair value. Fair value may be less than the appraised value depending on the project, the needs of the project sponsor, and other factors. The city of Omaha owns 59 properties within the redevelopment plan area. The redevelopment plan allows the transfer of city-owned property at fair market value. This resolution would approve the redevelopment plan only. Any subsequent transfer of city property will come to you as separate cases. This redevelopment plan also allows the use of eminent domain by the city. It is not planned, but I only mention it to be transparent. In August, the Planning Department began meeting with property owners, active and potential developers to better understand potential development. Through these meetings, we identified additional partners to meet with. On September 2nd, the Planning Department hosted a Zoom meeting to discuss the redevelopment plan. To notify residents of the meetings, we sent 307 mailings and 315 emails. We posted and shared a Facebook event, shared a digital flyer, and posted to Nextdoor. 14 active and potential developers presented their projects during the Zoom meeting. 85 people registered to attend the Zoom meeting. The meeting was recorded, posted online, and has been viewed 217 times on YouTube and 71 times on Facebook. Staff held office hours at the Fabric Lab on North 24th Street on 2 separate days, totaling 7 hours. There were 5 attendees. In October, Councilwoman Johnson hosted 2 public meetings to discuss the redevelopment plan. The first was attended by the planning director and assistant director. While speaking with property owners, active and potential developers, the request was made to extend the southern boundary to include city-owned property as far south as Decatur Street. Understanding the potential benefit to the 17 city-owned properties between the old boundary and the proposed boundary, the redevelopment plan was reworked to extend the boundary to Franklin and Clark. On December 9th, all property owners and residents were mailed a letter in the extended boundary informing them of the plan, where to read it, office hours, times, and locations, and how to get in touch and ask questions or leave comments. Similar letters were sent to all property owners and residents within the Forever North boundary, which is larger. A total of 2,445 letters were mailed. In addition, advertisements were provided on Facebook and in Nextdoor on December 9th, and in the Omaha Star December 10th. 389 emails were sent on December 11th. 4 more office hours were held, totaling 14 hours. 15 people attended. 394 emails were sent notifying residents and stakeholders of this hearing. Posts were made to Facebook and Nextdoor, and another ad ran in the Omaha Star. During this engagement with the community, we received no objections or concerns regarding the plan or boundary extension. The redevelopment plan was created in anticipation and support of community-driven development and investments near the intersection of 24th and Lake Streets. As a redevelopment plan, this plan focuses on potential redevelopment in the area, which was guided by and is consistent with Forever North. Forever North was created by the community with extensive community involvement. Approving this redevelopment plan is a step in implementing Forever North. No city funds are committed with this redevelopment plan, and this redevelopment plan does not approve any projects. Approval of development projects will happen separately from this approval. This redevelopment plan was structured to follow Nebraska Community Development Law, and it provides tools and resources the city can bring to bear to support private and nonprofit redevelopment in this corridor. Thank you.
Thank you. Other proponents on number 12?
Good afternoon, President Festerson and City Council members. I'm normally not speaking on topics like this, but my testimony will give emphasis to some of the statements made by Kelly and make a few other points. As a longtime planning department employee starting in the Community Development Division, I learned of and witnessed many revitalization efforts the city engaged in to promote economic development. Also, as a native of North Omaha and as a resident of this community, I have witnessed progress in the community that lets me know that decades of revitalization efforts by the city and many different community partners have caught momentum and are finally reaching a critical mass of redevelopment activity. I've also observed the overwhelming number of city-owned properties that existed in Northeast Omaha. This North 24th Street redevelopment plan is part of the implementation of the Forever North, as you've heard, and a great example of the city's role in helping to stimulate revitalization at a completely new level. The city's ownership has created a stumbling block, as you've heard from others, for the private sector to purchase property at reasonable prices and then redevelop in a manner that was feasible or economical. The city is working toward getting out of the business of owning property in North Omaha, and I believe that's what this North Omaha community has been applauding and wanting. The purpose of this North 24th Street redevelopment plan is to allow the city of Omaha, using the community development law, to transfer and sell city-owned property to potential buyers at fair market value, as Kelly said. And in this case, many of the potential buyers are people who look like the community. This means that the city could sell city-owned property to potential buyers for less than the fair market value if it chooses to do so. This is a very important benefit to those in the community who are interested and able to purchase these properties. Without this redevelopment plan, the city could sell the city-owned properties for the appraised value, which could be much higher than the fair market value under the community development law. This would not benefit many from the community who have expressed interest in purchasing city-owned property for the purposes of redevelopment. Because of strong interest from the private sector, particularly members of the community, revitalization in this part of North Omaha is taking place in a manner not witnessed in many of our lifetimes. The strong interest, the proposed projects, and private dollars attracted to the area, particularly at the two of the corners of the intersection of North 24th Street and Lake Streets, namely one, NOMA, North Omaha Music and Arts, and the North End Teleservices proposed project, are catalytic redevelopment activities the City of Omaha has been striving to achieve for decades. This is economic development. You will hear from several others of the proposed project owners and other representatives leading this transformation that our city is about to witness. The plan does not authorize any funding for proposed projects. The funding of many of the proposed projects referenced in the plan is a completely separate process from this plan. Any proposed project owners that seek funding assistance from the city will follow a completely separate process, which comes with its own set of public hearings. TIF has been mentioned as a tool to assist with few redevelopment projects. However, no applications for those proposed projects have been received. And I wanted to make that clear because I know some people are thinking it's an automatic, and it's not, and there's a whole separate process yet to come. Once TIF applications are submitted, vetted by the economic development staff, the TIF committee, the planning board, those applications in the redevelopment project plans will make their way to the city council. So with that, I thank you for your time and consideration, and I hope you will support the approval of this redevelopment plan.
Thank you. Other proponents on number 12?
Name, Manny, Manuel Cook, Spark, 2514 North 24th Street. And it's short and simple. It's time to do the work, and I support this plan. Thank you.
We'll give the clerk here just 1 minute. There's something she needs to adjust on the podium there. All right, thank you. Next proponent, please.
Hello, me again, Dana Murray, North Omaha Music and Arts, 2510 North 24th Street. I do a lot of talking about my life in New York because it's actually fascinating to me to see sort of the difference between revitalization versus gentrification. Another story, shorter though. I used to live in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, and I remember as a young jazz musician, there were these old brownstones in the neighborhood, dilapidated, some condemned, and they were offering people in the neighborhood, you can buy this property maybe for like $6,000 to $8,000. The city will give you another, I think it was $200,000, but you had to live there for, I think it was 8 years. Of course, our generation, I don't want that old, are you kidding me? No, you're trying to fool me. Fast forward 10 years, those same brownstones had come in, been developed, and were now worth $1.5 million. If only I knew then. So it's fascinating to see the process now, and it's also incredible that so many from the community are involved, because that was somehow different in New York. I think what does make Omaha unique is that it is a much easier road to get us to prosperity than any other place, underserved community in the country. And that's just not, that's not opinion, hyperbole, conjecture. That's a case study of my own life. So that's just a side note. So this is an awesome process to see. Art and music education. I find myself speaking for the youth often. Obviously, I'm for all of these agendas. But most of these agendas seem to always revolve around the adults, right? And because I'm a results-driven person, I tend to look at what went into creating something. We have to be able to look at where we failed our young people. I talk a lot about North Omaha and history of music, and my own experiences. I was probably one of the last group of kids that got to play with Preston Sr. at the showcase. But there was nothing else there, nor was there really a spirit of doing everything that could be done to make sure that the lineage of that music was going to carry on. So here we are, and now there's nothing on North 24th Street that represents music and culture, and again, in my estimation, at the level that that the predecessors would have hoped it would be. NOMA is not only a music school, will be, but it is a place where kids will learn how to become critical thinkers. Again, just like me in music, and there was not much lineage. If there's not much lineage to young people, period, then where are our future leaders, right? I think if we can give more time, and listen, there's a reason for that, right? Our communities of color haven't been afforded the luxury of investment, a lot of the sort of investment that a lot of other communities that are more fiscally fortunate are able to have. So there's a reason for all that, right? Nonetheless, here we are. We have got to invest in our young people if we want to see real progress, because all this that we're talking about, if it's only for this generation, only for the adults, then it's not really going to benefit those that are coming up really, really fast. So North Omaha Music and Arts and the North 24th Street redevelopment is going to ensure, in my estimation, that we give our kids more tools and more creative outlets to be successful, whatever they choose. Thank you.
Thank you. Other proponents? Ms. Quates-Ferris, welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Vicki Quates-Ferris. I am with the Empowerment Network, 2401 Lake Street. And I wasn't really going to come up here and say anything. I was kind of like one of those quiet supporters. But I really think that it's important that, and I do echo everything that everyone has said, but one of the things that I really want to put in perspective is, yes, the investment is definitely going to pay off, not just for North Omaha, but for the city of Omaha. But I want to let you know that, just to give you an example, in terms of what this development will mean, is when, say for instance, during Native Omaha Days, we have thousands of people that come in to the city. They enjoy themselves for a week, but there's a tour that's called Stroll Down Memory Lane. And people have an opportunity to be on a bus. Actually, it's Ollie the Trolley. But they have the opportunity to really just kind of think about and remember what 24th Street was at that time. And they get a kick out of it. I mean, they really enjoy looking at the different buildings and pointing out, yeah, we used to do this at the Jewel building, or yes, we used to enjoy ourselves at this building. But each year, when we do that tour, there's always something new that they can look forward to. And I always say during that tour, well, when you come back in 2 years, this is going to be happening, or this is what you can look forward to. So we had Native Omaha Days last year. If you could imagine, every 2 years when they come back and they see the development and the excitement and the amenities that are along 24th Street, they're almost at the point where they want to move back. So I say all of that to let you know that I really appreciate all of those who have a project along North 24th Street. I applaud the investment that has been made because, yes, there have been a number of plans. Some have had few dollars, but this is a plan that continues on with, it's just another layer. And I really want to make it clear that this is not just for North Omaha, although North Omaha will benefit, but we have to make sure what's in it for me, what's in it for you. We're trying to get talent into Omaha, but we want to get talent and we want to get the workforce going in North Omaha. We have these projects. So I say, if you want to leave a legacy for you and for the next generation, let it be stated and let it be known and put it on record that you supported this plan. And if you can imagine, for us to be able to say, yes, this is the council that said, yes, we can. It's not just North Omaha, but it's all of us. So when we win, you win. And I'm excited for the next tour that will come along for Native Omaha Days, but not even just in 2 years. I'm thinking about now. Because again, there's been development that's happened. I don't want this to be looked upon as this is a beginning. This is building on what's already been taking place in North Omaha. This is just adding to. And I really appreciate all of you taking the time to listen to us because as you can see, we are unified. We want this to be moving forward. And I am excited as a young girl who used to buy these hoop earrings on 24th Street. And I love those earrings too. But to be able to bring other folks down there to be able to shop, and I applaud, and I gotta say this, those businesses that have been down there during the high times and the low times, and then now we're back up on that peak. So you've got like Styles of Evolution, you've got like LaFleur, they've been through it. But can you imagine the excitement that they have of what's to come? So I appreciate the opportunity just to be able to share and put into perspective what this redevelopment plan means. And I'm excited to be a part of it, and I'm excited about what's to come. So thank you.
Thank you. Next proponent. It's hard to follow that one, huh? Okay, Luis, you're up.
Felice Jimenez, 2709 Dewey Avenue. I'm sorry, I thought I shut off my phone. I do want to share with you guys some the map of the redevelopment area. I can't. It doesn't. You can't really see it very well. There's a glare. But if you look at the redevelopment area, right away, one of the things that you notice is the vacant lots around up 24th Street. In this area, I met Councilor Johnson in one of the forums, civic forums that they were hosting while the planning department was engaging the community. And I think this is a failure of city planning, the way that what's there, you can't blame the community always. This is a failure of the city, and being able to convey the properties. I think that's one of the things that is talked about from the city to property, new property owners that are going to do something with the property. That's important, but if you go in that little area, there's a lot of things that is thriving. So it is a very interesting area. I remember when I was a kid out in Buffalo County, one of the things that happened was the school from where I lived, it was my elementary school, they took over some properties right across the street because they needed to expand. And so I haven't always been like too critical of local government, taking over some properties to help out the development. Not overly critical if it helps the area. But that's one point that I want to make is all those vacant spaces just going up along 24th Street. There's one at 24th and Parker. And then within the residential area. And that's another thing that's challenging about the area is that a lot of it is residential. So you kind of have to do some fine tuning, surgical planning there. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Other proponents in the audience? Mr. Barney. And then we have one by Zoom as well. You're batting cleanup again.
Willie Barney, 2401 Lake Street, Empowerment Network. A couple things. Obviously, we're in support of the plan, specifically this 24th and Lake plan. I think there's just a lot to the rich history of the area, but also the thriving future of the area. So there's a lot of development going on. But two things. I wanted to go back to something that Manny said early on in the first hearing about Forever North. And I think it's reinforced, and I don't want to skip past the comments from Gwen and the impact on small businesses. So one of the things that Manny talked about is how do we, as this moves forward into implementation, and we're prayerful and hopeful that this will also be a unanimous vote to move this plan forward, but it's incumbent upon all of us, including City Council, to make sure that those residents that live in the area, especially the seniors, what can we put in place? Because market values increasing is a good thing. However, if you have a limited capacity to pay those additional taxes, that is something that is a concern that we just want to keep a very close eye on, especially our seniors. So what things, and I know Manny's done a lot of research around this, we've looked at it as well, there are policies that can be instituted to make sure that the seniors are protected based on the income that they have. The second thing is, as Vicki mentioned, the number of small businesses, some of them that have stuck through this 30, 40 years, Styles of Evolution, 15 years, LaFleur's, I'm not sure how long, but how do we make sure that those businesses, those small businesses, those residents benefit from this overall? What are the policies that can be put in place? And I know some of them, there's been recommendations on facade improvements. How do we make sure that those small businesses benefit from that? And in addition to that, as we have seen development happen, new home construction, what funds are available? I know the planning department does a huge job based on the funds that they do have, but what funding could be made available for renovations of those other homes for residents that live there? They want to see their home improved. They want to be a part. They're in support of the development, but they also want to benefit from it. So we didn't want to skip past the concern that the community has had around making sure that our seniors are protected, making sure that the current residents benefit from this new development. They've stuck through it. They've been through it. How do they benefit? And then also, as we begin to bring in additional residents, and we don't want to skip over also the historic history of this and cultural district that we have. So there are Black-owned businesses, and one of the most exciting things that I see, I'm not sure if she's still here or not, but I'm hearing about development, a young African-American woman that has purchased property and looking to develop. A couple of folks that have gone through the Spark Academy on North 24th Street that have purchased the Native Omaha Days building, from what I understand, and they're going to renovate that. So one of the goals has been how do residents benefit and how do we respect that culture, the historic culture of African Americans owning businesses in this corridor. So that development, and then Carmen and her work and her team, those are some really exciting things. But I just didn't want to skip past that concern that's in the community. But we definitely support the approval, passage of this plan, the implementation that will take it to the next level. So thank you so much for your time. We appreciate your vote.
Thank you. And thanks for addressing that too. Other proponents, Ms. Tapio.
Carmen Tapio, 1500 North 24th Street, Suite 111. One of the things that I'd just like to emphasize is that in a time where many businesses are finding challenges in hiring people and available labor, I'm not having that problem. You know, to this day, I have thousands of qualified candidates in our database. And, you know, I see it as an opportunity, we see it as an opportunity to continue our growth and really to leverage the people that are there, the talent that is there, and to provide upskilling and workforce development. That is a philosophy of ours. You know, we grow our business based on the strong culture that we have and the strong commitment that we have to invest in the community, but also to invest in our people as well. And so, you know, it's a unique situation. I serve as a member of the executive committee of the chamber and on a number of other boards, and I talk to other CEOs that are really challenged in finding talent. We are not in that situation. And so it really is about full utilization of the workforce that is there in our particular business, call centers, you know, being a lifeblood and a rite of passage for many people in our community. But it's not about telemarketing. It is about the fact that our COO started at our company 6 years ago as an assistant, and today he is a COO. Our controller that we are bringing up in our organization started 4 years ago at our company as an entry-level job. So there are great opportunities for business, and I see this plan as a way of creating a business environment and a development environment so that we can continue to grow, but we can also attract other businesses to the area as well. And so I just don't want that fact to be overlooked. We can't be the only one, and I really commend city planning. I commend the community for the collaboration and the work together and really paving the way to create an environment where other businesses can come and be a part of the economy in North Omaha as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other proponents in the audience?
I was already up here, but Willie reminded me
So I need to tell you that you can't appear twice. But
okay, I'm just dropping these off, so I'm just letting you know.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
I was going to be nice and call you up after saying you couldn't speak.
I shouldn't have said anything.
All right, thanks for that. All right, I do want to recognize a proponent by Zoom, Ms. Krieger. Get you off mute here in a second. All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Jennifer Krieger, Greater Omaha Chamber, 808 Conagra Drive, Suite 400, 68102. Thank you, council members. We are supportive of this agenda item. In the interest of time, I will just echo what I said on the previous item, and that we're really inspired by what's happening and excited to be part of the future.
Great, thank you. We'll now move to opponents. Any opponents on number 12? Seeing none, public hearing's closed. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to be like Ms. Krieger. In the interest of time, I'm just going to go ahead and move that we accept this
Second.
agenda item. Thank you.
Mr. Harding, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to address one of the things about displacement. And I know Manny, actually at the planning board, had it, I think if I remember right, had underlined and highlighted when the first bullet point was the number one priority was to ensure that there would be no displacement resulting from any of the projects or plans. And that's what on Forever North, that was included in that plan. And so I know that's top of mind for the committee and for the work that'll be done there. One other quick thing, and I know Vicki Quates-Ferris mentioned it as well as some others, but and we've talked about what happens in North Omaha or what happens in South Omaha affects all of Omaha. And I think, we are all elected by district, but each and every decision that we contemplate, each and every vote that we make, we should be thinking how it affects Omaha as a whole. And I know I approach it that way, and that's why I'm absolutely going to be supportive of this action. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bagley, you're recognized.
Thanks, Mr. President. A quick comment regarding those two items that we just discussed. There's a lot of people that spoke here today on their tremendous potential in North Omaha in the years to come, and even prior projects we've talked about in the last few weeks we voted on. And I want to just give a quick call out to the young men and women in Omaha, but particularly District 2. If you're looking for a job, you don't have to go to college. There's nothing wrong with a four-year degree, but I sit on the Omaha Federation of Labor as the treasurer of that organization, and it's building trade jobs. And if you want to be a steam fitter, a plumber, an electrician, a sheet metal worker, a welder, an iron worker, a laborer, I can go on and on and on. There's tremendous jobs that you can get paid on the job to get trained to do. The local 16, the plumbers locally, they put out a Facebook page that they're accepting applications starting March 7th for entry into the state-of-the-art and an industry-leading apprenticeship program. These building trades, and it doesn't have to be a union one. I mean, there's contractors in town that are good, reputable contractors, but I encourage young men and women, especially in District 2, with these projects, talk to a building trade. Call my office and ask for Bagley, and I'll give you information on that, because there's great potential to make a good living building your community. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Just wanted to thank you, Danny, for giving that shout out to District 2. Thank you.
Thank you. No further lights. There's a motion and a second to approve item number 12. Roll call.
Palermo. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Mr. President.
Yes.
And 12 is approved, 7-0.
We thank everyone for coming down and thank you for your testimony.
Item 14, to consider a Class D liquor license for NP Mart 13, located at 901 North 24th Street, Suite A.
Item number 14 was postponed from the February 8th City Council meeting. Public hearing and vote is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the council. Sean Kelly, 2804 South 87th Avenue, appearing today on behalf of the applicant. This application is actually preceding the redevelopment of the northeast corner of 24th and coming. The use will be similar grocery, gas station, along with a Subway as well as a tenant inside. So happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any other proponents on 14 today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Sean, for bringing this project into the North 24th Street area. It's going to be very much welcome and very much needed. I also like to applaud you in your efforts to reach out to the neighbors, particularly Creighton University, and working through whatever concerns they may have had, just so that we could have something that's something that we can be proud of, located at 24th and Coming. I'm going to go ahead and move that we accept this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Second. No further lights. Roll call.
Palermo. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton is absent. Mr. President.
Yes.
Item 14 is approved, 6-0. Item 15, to consider a Class I liquor license for Frank's Pizzeria Ralston, located at 5413 South 72nd Street, number 116. A is communication from the Planning Department regarding permits for the outdoor area.
Public hearing on the vote on number 15 is today. Proponents, please. We have the proponent by Zoom, I believe. Mr. Halligan, we'll get you off mute.
Yep, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, name and address, please.
Perfect. Hi, I'm Matt Halligan, 5413 South 72nd Street. I own Frank's Pizzeria.
Great. Here to answer questions?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Just here to answer questions, right?
Yep, that's correct. Yep.
All right. Any other proponents on number 15? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Motion and a second. Roll call.
Palermo. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton is absent. Mr. President.
Yes.
Item 15 is approved, 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 16, to consider a Class I liquor license for La Sierra, located at 1702 South 10th Street. A's communication and support.
Public hearing and vote on number 16 is today. Proponents, please.
Hello, my name is Brenda Casares. I'm here representing La Sierra Restaurant at 1702 South 10th Street, Omaha, Nebraska 68107.
Thank you. Here to answer questions?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Any other proponents here today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. Mr. Bagley, you're recognized.
Thanks, Mr. President. I apologize, I couldn't hear your name when you were speaking. Can you repeat
Brenda
it?
Casares?
I'm sorry?
Brenda?
Brenda, okay. Brenda, thanks for coming down.
Sure.
A couple concerns I got, not because you're applying for a liquor license, it's just that in past council meetings, my friend and colleague, Councilmember Johnson, we went through an exercise where a business applied for a liquor license.
Mm-hmm.
And the owner of that establishment had not contacted the neighborhood groups. Have you talked to any of the neighborhood groups down in your neighborhood?
We're actually part of the Dolman Neighborhood Association.
Right.
A lot of the people who are members of that association are actually our customers. So we did have a few members, I believe, wrote letters in, also came to a restaurant or establishment to let us know that they were in support, that they couldn't make it, but they would try to send in some letters in writing to support us.
I did get there was a couple letters in support.
Mhm.
And I also heard from a couple business owners in the neighborhood. And again, not that they don't want you to succeed or against what you're applying for, but I would like to make a motion to lay this over for 2 weeks, just so you can contact, I left a message this morning, I guess it was this afternoon, with Mary with the Dolman Neighborhood Association.
Okay.
And I was planning on going to their meeting last night, but I had an illness, my daughter in the family, so I wasn't able to make it, but I reached out to her today, and I called, I called on Sunday and spoke to one of the business owners next to you, and also, I'm sorry, I'm pulling up my notes here.
Amalia Casares.
Thank you, Amalia. I spoke to her and her husband,
Uh-huh.
and the hours of the operation, are they going to be 11 a.m. to 8?
Yes, yes. Currently, our hours of operation are 11 to 8. They are Tuesday through Sunday, and we do not intend to extend the hours any further. Our purpose or plan of having the liquor license is just to offer alcoholic beverages while they're eating, not to turn it into a bar and have them afterwards.
Okay, and would you allow people to take alcohol from the establishment after they're done eating?
No, I believe you did ask that on Sunday. We did confirm that no, that's not, while that's part of the liquor license offering, while you're requesting it, that's not our purpose or our intent. No, just
Okay.
while you're there, while you're eating, consuming, if you leave, your alcoholic beverage stays there.
Okay, and I really do appreciate you answering the questions, and I'm not trying to
No, not at all.
play gotcha or anything. I want you to succeed, because I'll
Thank
be
you.
down to have lunch
That would
when
be
you
great.
get rolling, and maybe after work I'll go have a beer and a taco.
Sounds good.
But
No
it-
tacos there, but you're welcome to come try our food anytime.
All right, well, I'll look forward to that. But can you please, in the next couple weeks, if you don't mind, reaching out to the business owners around you? There's just concerns that if the parking, for instance, in front of the bake shop next to you there, their hours are 7 to noon, Tuesday through Saturday. And you're aware that they have that parking spaces leased in front of their business there?
That shouldn't be an issue. That's actually under our contract. The owner of the property, his name is Alan Z. Barth. We've actually had talks with them before regarding that parking because they believe that it's part theirs because they have a sign on the fence that says that it's their daycare. But that land is actually under our lease agreement that we could provide a copy of. So there shouldn't be an issue with that because it's part of our lease agreement.
So again, I appreciate you answering the questions today. I want to make a motion to lay this over for 2 weeks because I wanted to try to get in contact with Mary at the Dolman Neighborhood Association. And I want there to be good communication so when you're back in 2 weeks, any questions that the neighbors or the neighborhood associations or the businesses have, then we can get those answered, and then I'll look forward to supporting you in a couple
Should
weeks.
I be waiting for those questions or those answers, or should I be following up with Mary myself?
Mary, I left her a message today.
Yeah.
So feel free to reach out to Mary at any time, or me as well. I can give you my card.
Sure, I
when
think
you're done.
I think we have your phone number.
Yeah, okay, thanks. But my motion is to lay this over for 2 weeks, and we can have a discussion then.
Second. Mr. Harding, you're recognized.
Thanks, Mr. President. I think we had some questions at pre-council today about whether or not there was a restaurant tax that was owed. I wondered if that had been cleared up, or if anyone from finance or was here to.
I can answer for you if you'd like.
Yeah, sure.
So there was a issue with the tax being paid. I think we all paid all of it to the state. So instead of separating out 7%, 2.5%, we actually paid all the tax to the state. I did talk to the auditor who we were working with, Mr. John Kalal, I believe his name is, the auditor. We explained the situation, and all he said was that we would have to create an amendment. So he's told me what form I need to process to go ahead and create the amendment to get that tax back so that we can allocate it to the proper entity.
Okay. All right, and I assume if we do lay this over, we can make sure that all that's verified in the interim too.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Bagley, recognized.
One last quick, thanks for my friend Councilman Harding for bringing that up as well. Can you come up and I'll give you my card and my cell numbers on here. Thanks, Brenda. Thanks, Mr. President.
Okay. Motion and a second to lay over for 2 weeks. Roll call.
Palermo. Rowe. Bagley. Harding.
Yes.
Johnson. Melton is absent. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
Thanks.
2 weeks.
Yep.
Item 17, to consider a Class I liquor license for X Golf Omaha, located at 808 North 102nd Street, Suite 102.
Public hearing and vote on number 17 is today. Proponents, please.
Alyssa Rose, 808 North 102nd, just here for any questions.
Thank you. I think we also have Michael. Is he a proponent by Zoom? Michael
Yes,
Ruffalo.
I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
Michael Ruvalo, 808 North 102nd Street, Omaha, Nebraska. Sorry, forgot the zip code.
68144.
68144. Thank you. Sorry, I am the owner. Allie is my general manager. I'm
Okay.
just here for any questions.
Thank you. Any other proponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. Second, roll call.
Palermo. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton is absent. Mr. President.
Yes.
Item 17 is approved 6-0.
Thank you.
You bet.
Item 18, to consider a special designated liquor license application for Two Fine Irishmen located at 18101 R Plaza for an outdoor beer garden on March 17th from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Public hearing on number 18 is today. Proponents, please.
Kyron O'Brien, 13974 Hickory Circle,
Thank you.
Here to answer any questions.
Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. Mr. Rowe, you're recognized.
Kyron, thank you for coming down this afternoon.
You bet.
I know you didn't expect to be here for 2.5 hours, but I appreciate you making the effort.
You betcha.
I just had a couple of questions I wanted to bring up. It was last summer, we had some issues with some of the neighbors to your south, and with some noise, with some bands on the outside. And I just wanted to make sure, given it's the middle of March, I doubt that you're going to have a band playing out in the front of the operation, right?
The reason why we're getting an SDL is you need one to get a Budweiser truck to keep it refrigerated. You order more for St. Patrick's Day. And an SDL also allows you to send back the unused beer. So that's the difference in why most Irish bars get SDLs. It's easier to plan for inventory.
Okay.
Like, we're not having an outdoor area.
Okay. I guess that was just the main thing. I want to make sure that the noise level was somewhat reasonable. And I did notice, and I did appreciate that you're only requesting that SDL till 11 o'clock, not until 2 a.m. So
No.
I think
we're
that
hoping to have everybody cleared out by midnight.
Yeah, I think that made the neighbors happy as well. The other reason I called you down here is I know that Councilmember Begley enjoys a pint now and then. He's mentioned that. And I just wanted him to know that there are Irish establishments west of 72nd Street.
Yep.
And if you go to the far reaches of District 5, Danny, you can order a half and half along with some really good fish and chips.
Yes, sir.
So thanks for coming down here. Appreciate that.
If you're into it, the pipe and drums show up at 11 a.m. that day.
Tell them to bring the Irish ambassador, too.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Bagley, you're recognized.
Thanks, Mr. President. Councilmember Rowe, I'll see you after the session. Thank you.
No further lights. Was there a motion, Mr. Rowe? Roll call.
Palermo. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton is absent.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Item 18 is approved, 6-0. Item 19, to consider a special designated liquor license applications for Maloney's Irish Pub located at 1830 North 72nd Street for St. Patrick's Day events on March 17th from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. and on March 18th through 22nd from 3 p.m. to 2 a.m. with music until midnight each night.
Public hearing and vote on number 19 is today. Proponents, please. I believe we have Mr. Ellis by Zoom.
Miss Ellis.
Miss
Yes.
Ellis. All right. Thank you.
Hi. My name is Jordan. I'm 1830 North 72nd Street here in Omaha. I'm here for any questions. I do just want to clarify beforehand. We aren't planning on having music every single night. We're kind of in the same situation as the gentleman from the Fine Irishman. We're getting this to be able to return liquor. We are having bands, but they will not be going past midnight. So that is our plan.
Great. Thanks for that clarification.
Yes.
Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. Roll call.
Palermo. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton is absent. Mr. President.
Yes.
Item 19 is approved, 6-0.
Thank you.
You bet. Good luck.
Consent agenda. Any member of the City Council may cause any item placed on the consent agenda to be removed. Items removed from the consent agenda shall be taken up by the City Council immediately following the consent agenda in the order in which they were removed unless otherwise provided by the City Council Rules of Order.
The public hearings on agenda items number 20 through 31 were held on February 8th. Is there a motion? Roll call.
Palermo. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton is absent. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
In this next section, we'll take items number 38 and 41 off the consent agenda just for some additional discussion. So first, we'll take the other items. So public hearings on agenda items number 32 through 37 and 39 through 40 and 42 through 47 are today. If you wish to address the City Council regarding these items, please come to the microphone, indicate the agenda item number you wish to address, identify yourself by name, address, who you represent, and if you are a proponent or an opponent. Any speakers on those items? Seeing none, public hearing's closed. Motion and a second. Roll call.
Palermo. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Well, now,
Item-
go ahead.
Oh, item 38, a resolution to approve the nomination of Rudy Smith Senior Street as a commemorative street name on Lake Street from 34th Avenue to 36th Street.
Public hearing on vote on number 38 is today. I understand we have some family members here. We appreciate hearing from you on this commemorative street in honoring of Rudy Smith.
My name is Charlotte Abram. My address is 4916 North 50th Street here in Omaha, Nebraska. I am a proponent. I am a childhood friend from the age of birth on of Rudy Smith. His wife, Lana Smith, his widow, is here. Some of you might know Rudy's story. Rudy was one of the protesters in front of the Omaha World Herald in the 60s. And he was protesting the fact that there were no African American staff members there. And so they asked him, well, why don't you apply? And Rudy did. And he worked his way up and got the job. Rudy there's a book the World Herald has published of Rudy's photography. He was one of the photographers during the riots in Omaha and took some very moving pictures all throughout his life. And his legacy stands for itself. And I would just continue to ask you to support and to remember this outstanding citizen who happened to be a black man who worked his way up and was able to have an eye that let so many other people see the reality of what's going on in our city and our world. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that background. On top of being a great photographer, he was a real super nice guy, too. Other proponents, please. Ms. Cabot, welcome.
Hello, Reverend Portia Cabot. I come on behalf of serving as president of the Great Plains Black History Museum, 2221 North 24th Street. And I come asking that you would vote in agreement of naming Lake Street between 34th and 36th after Rudy Smith. Rudy served as the president of the board of directors, and upon his death, I assumed that role as his vice president. I am now the president of the Great Plains Black History Museum. So we come in support of his family and his friends and ask that you would see through the lens of Rudy all that he has done and what he represents, and that portion of Lake Street should bear his name, that we might remember all that he has done, even in the midst of the riots, as well as telling the history of North Omaha. So thank you. And we will lift him up as often as we can at the Great Plains Black History Museum. We have named him a board of director emeritus of the Great Plains Black History Museum.
Thank you. Other proponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Harding, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, it's interesting. When I worked for Hal when Hal Daw was mayor, and I got to know Mr. Smith pretty well. But what's interesting to me is that for all the kids that and parents who got their kids to read the paper, and when you start out, you're looking at the pictures mostly, and the stories that those pictures told made an impression upon me when I was growing up, and Rudy was the one who took a lot of those pictures, and the stories that kids learned when they picked up the Omaha World Herald were told by those pictures. You know, the old saying of a picture is worth 1,000 words, and all those the history, the action photos, the photos that you just looked at, and you could read your own story into it. I think those impressions that were made by him upon the citizens of Omaha are invaluable, And to have the commemorative street naming is probably not enough to recognize the great work that he did, but certainly we'll be supportive of this.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you. Rudy will definitely be missed in North Omaha and Omaha as a whole. He certainly made remarkable history. He was really ahead of his time in terms of his photography. And I just want to thank you, the family, to include Ms. Abrams, for sharing him with Omaha, Nebraska. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Begley, you're recognized.
Thanks, Mr. President. It's a great honor that's well-deserved for Mr. Smith. Looking at, by way of history, it's impressive reading his accounts, and as my colleagues mentioned, his contribution to this city. He was a man of conviction that lived his life serving others through pictures and journalism. And that's a tremendous difference. And I always love watching Sunday mornings, a guy named Willie Geist on NBC. He does a segment of somebody, of a life well lived. And they go through the story of the person they're talking about that Sunday. And I can't help but to think that as a family sits here today, it's a great honor to see you here. And I know Rudy's looking down, knowing that he had a life well lived, and through your nods, and I know you're smiling under your mask, that you're agreeing with me. So it's a great honor for all of us I'm certainly going to support this. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you. No further lights. Is there a motion? Motion and a second. Roll call.
Palermo. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Mr. President.
Yes.
And 38 is approved, 7-0.
Thanks for being here.
Item 41, a resolution to approve the agreement with Match in the total amount of $50 million in emergency rental assistance program funds for the continuation of a short-term rental and utility assistance for households impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic.
Public hearing and vote on number 41 is today. We felt this was a significant item that deserved some conversation for the public's knowledge. So I wanted to have that conversation now with proponents. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. Kevin Anderson, Deputy Chief of Staff in the Mayor's Office, here in support of this agreement, which will put forth an additional $50 million to fulfill a great community need out there. I want to take the opportunity to commend both the Match organization and Planning Department's HCD staff led by Mr. Bill Lukash in their work in the successful distribution of nearly $40 million to fulfill this need to date, and their work in securing this additional $50 million to get money in the hands of people who need it as a result of the pandemic and fulfill a great community need, as I mentioned. This came about with a lot of coordination between the state of Nebraska and the Fed Treasury to reallocate $50 million that was not being utilized by the state, and again, keeping it within our borders and getting it in the hands of people who need it. So I believe Mr. Lukash and Lisa Fox with Match are here for a brief presentation, so I'll be available for any questions.
Thank you. Next proponent, Mr. Lukash.
Oh, hi, thank you so much, Bill Lukash, Assistant Director, Omaha Planning Department, Community Development Division. Just wanted to give you a little bit of context about how these funds have gone over the last few months. In March of 2021, the City Council approved an agreement with Match to operate an emergency rental assistance program for $22 million. In August of 2021, the City Council, approved an agreement for $16 million of ERAP 2 funds. At that time, we had identified that there might be an opportunity to get more funding in the future around December 1st of 2021. And we weren't really sure when those funds would come to us. Unfortunately, it has taken until now to get those additional funds. We did have to hit pause on the program for just a few weeks here in February because we did actually run out of funds, or Match ran out of funds. So yes, we are thankful to have these $50 million. They are reallocated from the state to the Treasury back to the City of Omaha. We did ask for an additional $22 million through a separate application process. We have not heard back from on that yet. The thought there was that Perhaps there were other funds from the state of Nebraska or from other nearby community or states that hadn't been used that we could capture. So that's still hanging out there. I don't know if we will get those or not, but we do have these $50 million. They were deposited into our account in early February. The exact date escapes me, but we are ready to go to provide those funds to the community once again. I'll step aside and let Lisa talk about the information that she just passed out.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is actually Lisa Vukov, V as in Victor, UKO, V as in Victor, representing the Metro Area Continuum of Care for the Homeless at 6001 Dodge Street, Suite 117. We have been operating the Emergency Rental Assistance Program in partnership with the City of Omaha since April of 2021. You all should have received a handout that gives a basic breakdown as to who we have served through this project thus far. As you will see, we have surpassed over $37 million in emergency rental assistance into this community. And as Mr. Lukash recently, or just mentioned, we essentially ran out of money a few weeks ago and have had to pause that process. During this pause, while we were awaiting the time to come before City Council, we have actually taken a very deep dive into the program as it is and made some improvements to the program. We are going to be launching a more streamlined application process that will hopefully allow folks to get approved faster. We also are looking into, or we are going to be implementing a resource specialist position through all of our partner agencies for those households that are going to be returning for second round assistance. One of the things that we are really trying to prepare for in the future is the cliff effect that is going to come when these funds ultimately disappear from our community, whether that be when the expiration date comes or when we run out again. We recognize that there's been a huge influx in emergency rental assistance, and when we go back to the status quo, we're going to need to have some plans in place for households that are continuing to struggle. So this resource specialist position is going to be through all of our partner agencies, and they are going to be assessing for the needs of households that are returning to request additional assistance. They are going to serve as a conduit to those entities that can provide those resources and essentially, hopefully, set the households up for success beyond this. There are a few data points that I just wanted to mention that did not make it onto this sheet. While we have the racial demographics breakdown, we do not have a breakdown of ethnicity on there, and I thought it would be good to also provide that. For all of the applications that we have received, 82% of those identified as non-Hispanic, 7% of those identified as Hispanic, 8% of those individuals preferred not to answer the question, and 3% reported that they did not know.
Great, thank you. Any other proponents today?
It would be very strange if I was here as an opponent, right? You all know me well enough at this point. Erin Feitstinger, Director of Advocacy and Policy at Together. We are one of the partner organizations that my good friend Lisa was up here talking about, 812 South 24th Street, 68108. And I was asked to come down and talk about the Tenant Assistance Project and its connection to emergency rental assistance funds. And I'd also like to highlight just a little bit of what we've been able to do as a result of ERA in our community, and also because of the city's good decision to allow community organizations to disperse these funds as opposed to someone else. The Tenant Assistance Project, or TAP, was launched in Douglas County in August 2021, and the CDC eviction moratorium expired very shortly after that. TAP is coordinated through the Nebraska State Bar Association's Volunteer Lawyers Project, which recruits volunteer attorneys like Councilmember Melton to help people through an eviction hearing and negotiate with the landlords and their attorneys to come to a different resolution than what I would call a get out now eviction, meaning the eviction judgment is ordered and that writ issues immediately, and the constable could technically be at your door by the time you got home from work that night. Before TAP, that immediate eviction judgment rate, those get out now evictions, was around 95% in Douglas County Eviction Court. Since TAP started in August 2021, we have seen almost immediately that for those evictions where the tenant shows up to get a volunteer lawyer, and because of outreach and publicity around TAP, which I hope you will spread to your constituents, we've had an increase in tenants appearing for their eviction hearings and being able to access that help. But with the intervention of TAP, about 90% of those cases now are getting dismissed or ending in stipulated agreements that give the tenant more time to move out, to get connected to resources, or fulfill the other things that allow them to stay in their homes and or avoid an eviction judgment on their housing record. And all of these things have served to increase housing stability and reduce homelessness in our community, which I know is all of your goals on council. But how does TAP work with emergency rental assistance? There's about 30 organizations orbiting TAP that help to fulfill all those other aspects of an eviction and provide support. So like, for example, this morning I was connecting a woman to our organization so that she could stay in her home and fulfill the results of her, or the parts of her stipulated agreement. We've also helped people like pay for dumpsters so that they could clean out their house and stay in their housing, just all sorts of the complex issues that people face leading up to an eviction, as well as the enormous lift that it takes to make sure they avoid homelessness after the fact. TAP has a match representative zoomed into the lobby of eviction court, and I know we all despise Zoom, but thank goodness for it. And that helps connect both tenants and landlords to emergency rental assistance funds. This incredibly simple system has been overwhelmingly effective at making sure that these emergency rental funds are being used exactly how they're supposed to be used to prevent homelessness. Tenants and landlords, many of whom did not know about the availability of these funds until walking into eviction court that morning, can walk right over to the computer and start their application. And that means that we have one less person becoming homeless that day and one more landlord who's able to cover the costs of providing and maintaining affordable housing in the community. Of the 450 people facing eviction who have been helped by TAP since August 2021, so that's 450 people that have been served by TAP, 68%, or 306 of them, have been connected to and received ERA funds directly in court from Match. That's 306 Omahans who would otherwise be homeless but for the availability of these funds and our ability to connect people to resources. Just this morning, I saw 2 people avoid an immediate eviction because of the availability of ERA funds through Match out of 13 hearings. So that's a good rate for us in eviction court. Some context why this matters. Omaha accounts for about 50% of statewide eviction filings annually. So we make up 50% of all the evictions in the state. And that's around 3,500 a year annually. In 2020, because of the various moratoria, that number dropped to a little over 1,800 filings in Douglas County. In 2021, that number rose to 2,500 with the expiration of those moratoria. But I want you to understand that that number could have been so much higher if we did not have emergency rental assistance. It's the only thing stopping people from becoming homeless, and it has allowed us to do incredible things, such as TAP. But just to give you an illustration, last week there were 135 eviction filings in Douglas County, which is nearly double anything that we've seen since March 2020 when COVID started. And 121 of those filings were for non-payment. So these are all people who needed help. Because there is such a high need for ERA in Omaha, and because we've been so efficient at meeting that need that we had to pause ERA applications and processing until this payment on this agenda item came through, fewer landlords and their attorneys were willing to make deals last week because they were nervous that that funding wasn't going to be available, that everyone in that courtroom was relying on. And I'm going to wrap it up, I promise you, Councilmember Festerson. I also want to point out, though, that we've been able to develop really comprehensive support systems around eviction court and for people facing evictions in a way that we have never been able to do before, and that's entirely because of the availability of ERA funds, and the willingness by our local electeds such as yourself to trust us as community organizations to know how to distribute these funds. An example is that TAP has just recently contracted with our organization to provide a case manager that will just be sitting in eviction court, ready to connect people to whatever resources they need right there in court. We can do a lot of great things with these funds, things that will allow us to reduce homelessness and make our community stronger and more stable as a result. So thank you for your support of this item. I am always happy to come and talk about evictions and homelessness and housing instability, though I should note I do have other more fun interests. Like, I don't just talk about this all the time. They were just talking about pizza and La Sierra. I'm interested in both of those things. So anyway, happy to answer any and all of your questions about TAP, housing, homelessness, maybe pizza.
All right, thank you. Other proponents today?
Good almost evening here. Janet Bonnet, 4502 South 14th Street, Omaha, Nebraska. I have to tip my hat to both of these ladies and their organizations. I'm an interpreter in court. The other day I was called in to small claims court and was mobbed by people that needed help with housing issues. Thank God that there were folks out there in the hallway willing to help them and ready. If there's going to be someone there every day, every time that there's a case like this, it's going to be very important. This money is absolutely essential to help areas, particularly like mine, South Omaha. I am astounded, though, to hear that only 7% of applicants were Hispanic or identified as Hispanic, because I see people being evicted all the time in my area. And I did talk to a person in the hallway who said she felt she would be rejected because she doesn't have a formal contract for the part of a house that she rents. So there are serious issues out there for housing. I'm glad to see that it's being handled by organizations in town, not outsourced. And I'm also very pleased to know that the City of Omaha, I hope, will be accepting this funding and using it appropriately.
Thank you. Other proponents today?
Luis Jimenez, 2709 Dewey Avenue. I'm in support. I've supported the federal funding for COVID response whenever I can, because there needs to be a financial response. And I noticed here in my zip code, 68105, it's one of the higher zip codes. It's just right over there, not too far from here. So this money is needed. I'll thank also Councilmember Melton and the organizations being represented here for this work. If you turn your paper around, you'll actually see that throughout the last 2 years, this funding has month to month has gone down. You see this from up here, 6 million in July 2021, and now February 2022, it's at less than 2 million. So it is an emergency, and I'm glad you're going to respond as such. Thank you.
Thank you. Other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. Ms. Melton, you're recognized.
Thanks. I know it's getting late, but I really want to thank Lisa, Match, Aaron, Lori, all the attorneys that show up every day, 4 days per week. Thursday's the only day off. There's no eviction court on Thursdays. But there have just been so many people that have really dedicated a lot of time to this. And I really do think the council should be very happy and proud that we selected Match to do this. Match isn't only just taking those applications. Like Aaron said, they are there every morning, available by Zoom. We've got Match on the computer answering questions. The lawyers are able to talk to them about clients. And then even after that, the responsiveness of Match has been incredible. And I just wanted to say thank you. I know you're kind of behind the podium there. I can't see you, Lisa. But Aaron's response too, and the amount of people that tap and Aaron and Match has been able to help with these funds has been incredible. And I do agree when these are used, hopefully between now and then we'll find a more permanent solution to this. So thank you to everyone.
Thank you. And Lisa, may I ask you a question too? Or actually, I just want to give you the podium for a second because I was talking to a constituent this morning who was very much in favor of this and had been a little bit confused about recent reports. As you noted, the city of Omaha did accept the $40 million, and we did distribute it through match, and I totally agree with Ms. Melton. That was a great decision. You've got it out a lot faster and in a lot more coordinated way than I think the city could have done on its own. And so we want to continue that success. But they had heard that the state had declined money, and that's also true. But the money we're talking about here today, the extra $50 million, was money that was already not used by the state that we were able to take advantage of and reallocate to the city. Is that correct?
That is correct. There's a lot of confusion, I think, going on out there right now. And what we're talking about here, the U.S. Treasury actually issued 2 allocations of funding through 2 different congressional acts. And so what we're talking about here is the original ERA or ERAP 1 funds that the state of Nebraska received to the tune of $158 million. And the city of Omaha received to about $22 million. We blew through that first $22 million for the city of Omaha very quickly. The city of Omaha had applied for ERAP 2 funds, which came down through the American Rescue Plan. And we blew through that money as well already. And so through the state, their original $158 million of those ERA 1 funds had been spent very slowly. And so through this process, since the city of Omaha, as well as our colleagues in the city of Lincoln, since our funds were being drastically depleted, there was an opportunity to go back to the U.S. Treasury and say that we wanted to redistribute these funds across the areas of Nebraska that were becoming depleted, and that was ultimately accepted by the U.S. Treasury. And so these are going back to those original ERA 1 funds that have a sunset date of September 30th of 2022, so this year. Very different than what is currently in the Nebraska legislature regarding the second round of ERA funds, which of course was the $16 million that we got here in Omaha. And those actually have a later sunset of 2025. And so.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification.
Yep.
And I, for one, do hope the state changes its mind and does apply for that money. But I do want to thank you and Mr. Lukash for realizing the opportunity with this particular fund so that this doesn't just go back to the federal government, but can be used by constituents here in Omaha effectively. And as you note, that needs to be distributed by September, but I don't think we have any concern about that being possible given the history here of the $40 million that you've already been able to distribute, right?
Correct. In fact, we have been building, we've continued to approve applications that are in our queue during this pause period, and we've already accumulated almost $3 million, or a little actually over $3 million, that as soon as this hits our bank account, we have to pay out. So we're already tapping into it.
Great. And for those that are watching, and actually, I know our cable was down earlier in the meeting, but it is back up now. So I wanted to give you a chance for those that are watching that maybe aren't aware of how to apply for that. Just a little commercial about how they do reach out to Match, what your contact information is. And by the way, Match just stands for the Metro Area Continuum of Care for the Homeless. It's an acronym that sometimes is a kind of a tongue twister, but I want folks to know what it is you do. And then maybe just a quick information session about how they can contact you.
Sure. So we have a website that is kind of the gateway into our application. It is known as matchconnect.org or MACCHCONNECT.org. Through there, you will be initially instructed to enter your physical address of your rental unit. That is so that we can verify that it is within the city of Omaha boundaries, because we cannot pay outside of the city of Omaha. And then from there, you are connected to our portal where you will begin your application. For those who may not have internet access or who are struggling with completing an online application, we do have a contract in our partnership with the United Way 211 call center. They can begin applications over the phone, and they can also help folks navigate any challenges that they are having with their applications. We do have an email address for any inquiries. It's known as Omaha ERAP or ERAP at endhomelessnesstoday.org. And we are always prepared to take questions and field any challenges that folks are having with their applications.
Excellent. Thank you. No further lights. Is there a motion? Second. Roll call.
Palermo. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Mr. President.
Yes.
Item 41 is approved, 7-0.
Thanks.
Item 48, a resolution to approve the settlement agreement for Brandon Bierman versus City of Omaha in the amount of $75,000.
Public hearing and vote on number 48 is today. Proponents, please.
Matt Kuzi, City of Omaha Law Department, here to answer any questions.
Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Roll call.
Palermo. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Mr. President.
Yes.
Item 48 is approved, 7-0. Item 49, an ordinance approving a bid from Northwest Electric LLC for the City of Omaha maintenance services for various electrical equipment in the annual estimated cost of $147,990.
Public hearing on number 49 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 50, an ordinance to accept the bid of Egan Supply Company to provide janitorial supplies for the Omaha Fire Department at a total cost of $32,796.50.
Public hearing on number 50 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Items 51 through 63 do not require public hearing or city council consideration at this meeting, but will be placed on a future agenda for public hearing and or vote. The reason for non-action is noted after the item on the agenda, as well as the date the item is expected to appear on the agenda for consideration.
Second, roll call.
Palermo. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Meeting is adjourned at 5:01.